Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever ranking video on GoAWrestling. If this is your first time here, this is a new wrestling channel for us. We have another channel, a main channel called Genesis of Androzani. We review many other things, such as Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, Marvel, Pink Floyd, and other stuff. This is our wrestling-specific channel, and my name's Connor. This is Callum.
Hello.
Have done a Money in the Bank review, and also we have a channel introduction if any of you want to go and see what we're all about, how we were introduced to wrestling, and sort of our takes on the most recent WWE pay-per-view. Speaking of that Money in the Bank pay-per-view, today's ranking video is going to be related to that topic. It is going to be a ranking of the Money in the Bank cash-ins. And there are 29 of them, so this is going to be a long video.
Yes, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so if any of you are only seeing this as the wrestling channel and haven't seen any of our content in the last 5 years on the main channel, the way we do these rankings is both of us individually come up with our own lists, and we read them from bottom to top, like a zip. And if we have any of the selections at the same ranking, we snap and talk about it together. That's kind of how we do it. And it's sort of like basically this is a terminology used when you're learning how to drive a car. It's like you merge like a zip if you're on the motorway. So it's kind of like that, where it goes up in a sort of, like that. Although there have been times before, especially with Jake and Adam, where it got a bit messy and they got the order fucked up. But regardless.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. But yeah, so we are going to be ranking the cash-ins. So I haven't actually specified any criteria to you because I feel like there's a level of subjectivity to what this constitutes, because there's a lot that goes into being a Mr. or Miss Money in the Bank, because there's the ladder match itself, and then there's what they do when they have the briefcase, when they are the Mr. or Miss Money in the Bank. Then there is the moment when there's sometimes you get those moments where they tease a cash-in and don't do it. And then you get the actual cash-in itself, the actual legit attempt. And then there's the match they have in the cash-in, and then there's whether or not they win the championship they're cashing in on, and then there's also the title reign they have after they cash in. So there's a lot of things that go into Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
I think the way I see it is the central point of this ranking is mostly honed in on the cash-in itself, but it's kind of like there's like a mountain with like sort of waves around it, so everything that's close to it is also somewhat important. So like what their reign was like as the briefcase holder, and also the reign,
the context matters. Really.
The context of them as a briefcase holder, and also the championship reign they had after, if they won. And then like the least important thing is the quality of the ladder match, because that's a whole different list entirely. And honestly, a lot of those ladder matches they're all sort of very similar in quality anyway. Like most of them are clumped together, and then there's like a few that are exceptional, and then there's like a couple that are kind of below average.
Yeah.
But if you want to know what we thought of the most recent two Money in the Bank ladder matches, you can watch our Money in the Bank pay-per-view review, because we both had a lot of things to say about those matches, a lot of positives mainly.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was a very fun pay-per-view.
Yes. Now, of course, we record this in July of 2023, and currently Io Sky and Damian Priest are holding the briefcase and have not cashed in yet, so they will not factor into this list. But I think what this list will do is it will show what we kind of believe is a do and don't scenario for Money in the Bank holders, and kind of what we would like to see from both of them in their future cash-ins, and also what we wouldn't like to see from their future cash-ins. But personally, I mean, I've been watching wrestling since like 2009, and the Money in the Bank cash-in has always been a really interesting, creative, and exciting idea.
Oh yeah, it's their best modern idea. Yeah, I say, like in the last 20 years, it's probably their best idea.
Yeah, I do think it is kind of ironic that Chris Jericho never won it given that it was his idea. He hasn't even won the bloody the chip or the Revolution ring in AEW either, which are basically just Money in the Bank ripoffs to some extent, because they both revolve around cashing in. Although, to be fair, the Revolution ring is for the TNT title. However, there is one cash-in on this list that is equivalent to that, and we'll get into that one.
I noticed a lot when making this list that I love the Money in the Bank cash-in, everything about it. Everyone loves the idea, of course. It's such a unique idea. You know, someone coming out of nowhere, one of the champions in the ring, and they beat them out of nowhere on a random show, and they become champion. It's such a cool idea. Only like 25% of them are actually good, which is kind of a shame, really, at least from my perspective, because what I did for ranking is I watched a compilation of all the cash-ins / winners, then winning the match and then cashing in up until like 2020, and then I watched the rest. And I wasn't watching wrestling until like 2014, so my sort of perspective on a lot of the cash-ins before then are a bit hazy, because I haven't watched a lot of the eras around that time. So I had to really try and make sure I knew the context of the cash-ins, and I feel like I did to a certain extent. But yeah, there's a lot that are very muddled together, I found, especially because a lot of them are like especially the last couple of years. There's been a lot of really iffy ones.
It's interesting because and I think a lot of people will find this whenever we talk about like a ranking that is respective of years in WWE's history. This idea came up in 2005. This is a long time ago. This like the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match happened in the same month that Series 1 of Doctor Who New Who happened. Like, it's that long ago.
Yeah, that's how old it is.
This is 18 years ago, and it came up in the smack bang in the middle of the Ruthless Aggression era. So this is a very, very old idea from current perspective. And it's been around for a long time, and I think this is not just because of this thing. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But personally, I think the reason why the success rate of this idea has now in perspective has not been as good as we would imagine, given how good the idea is because of the gimmicked pay-per-views that Vince McMahon decided to do from 2009 onwards. So from about mid-2009, Vince McMahon decided to repackage all the pay-per-views in WWE to being gimmicked. So like before that, you know, you go through like obviously you had like your big ones like Royal Rumble and Survivor Series that are traditional, but you had pay-per-views that had names that were related to sort of, they had like emphasis on them. So like No Way Out, Backlash, Judgment Day, Vengeance, Unforgiven, No Mercy, Armageddon, that sort of thing, right? It's almost like a description of the feeling of what this pay-per-view is supposed to invoke. Whereas once you get to after SummerSlam 2009, you start to get stuff like Breaking Point, Hell in a Cell, TLC, Elimination Chamber, Extreme Rules, you know, and Money in the Bank. And with that said, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view has become one of the biggest every year. It's kind of almost expanded the Big Four into the Big Five. In a lot of ways, a lot of people consider Money in the Bank actually a bigger pay-per-view than Survivor Series. You know, especially recently.
At the moment it is.
Especially, I mean, I suppose War Games last year was kind of, it did bring things up a bit, but in like the last 5 years of Vince doing Survivor Series, Money in the Bank was always way bigger. And it's not just because of the Money in the Bank concept itself, it's also because of some of the major, like I think 2011 CM Punk, John Cena has solidified the Money in the Bank pay-per-view as a big deal. on top of the fact that it produces briefcases. I also think that one of the reasons why the thing has, like, the whole idea has become a bit difficult for them to get around is because they've had many years since 2010 where there's been 2 briefcases. And in 2010, they actually had 3 briefcases because they did it at WrestleMania as well. And by having more briefcases, you have more of a chance of fucking it up. And they're starting to run out of... Well, I don't think they've done every idea. I've always had ideas for Money in the Bank that they've never done. Like, one of my ideas, if I was booking the show, is they've never had a Money in the Bank contract expire. Like, they've never had someone hold it for an entire year and then it gets to the very last day. Like, imagine if... Just say, for example, someone wins the briefcase, they hold it for a whole year until the next Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and then they cash in after that, and then the winner of the briefcase that night cashes in on them. So it's like a 1-year cash-in followed up immediately by a 1-day cash-in. That'd be insane. But anyway.
The way to do that properly without making that seem like not make sense is you would have the pay-per-view like a week before the actual date of the previous pay-per-view. So it technically isn't a year, and that you can have that technicality.
Yeah,
like I think it's a cool idea and concept. It'd be difficult to book around.
The other idea you can do is you can do the sort of the Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 10 thing, where you have the holder hold it for a whole year and they get like kayfabe injured 3 weeks before the pay-per-view, and their contract actually expires, but they come back with the briefcase that's no longer, it's like an obsolete briefcase, and they're like, they challenge the current briefcase holder for their briefcase. It's like, who's the undisputed Money in the Bank? Those are 2 ideas I've always had floating around, but it's unlikely to happen, I think. But anyway, let's not talk about the things we want to happen. Let's talk about the things that actually have happened.
Yeah.
So, we have 29 cash-ins to go through, and it'll be interesting to see if we line up on some things or if we have some disagreements, hot takes. It's possible. I mean, as we've discussed in the intro video, I started watching wrestling 5 years before you, so I have a different memory of some of these cash-ins. Not just the ones I saw live, but the ones I saw on YouTube when I was a kid. And also because I've seen more pre-2014 pay-per-views than you have, I think.
Yeah.
So that also factors into it. But yeah, it should be interesting. So I'll do the honors. I'll start. My number 29, the worst cash-in of all time, is Austin Theory.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's the most recent one as well.
It technically is the most recent one, yeah.
Yeah. So I will give a caveat. There is one thing I do like about this cash-in. They set a precedent that you can cash in on the United States or the Intercontinental Championship. I do like that, because what that does is it establishes that those championships actually mean something. They're worth winning. In concept, yes. In concept, it does that. But let's talk about the actual context of this cash-in, because the part that kind of ruins that is you ask yourself, why does he cash in on the US title? It's not because the US title is what he wants, it's because he's scared of Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Because at the time, the World Heavyweight Championship it didn't exist yet. It was yet to be rebranded. And so the only world title was Roman Reigns' Undisputed Universal Championship, because he was holding both belts around his shoulders because of what Vince did at WrestleMania 38, which was an interesting decision, but nonetheless, we ended up with a cash-in where Vince booked the champions from Mania as one, and then he booked Theory to win the briefcase, and then Triple H took over creative. And so Triple H had to decide, what do I do with this briefcase? And what do I do with the fact that Roman's the champion? And so he decided, let's have him cash in on the United States Championship. So it being because he's scared of Roman Reigns, it doesn't really do what you should be doing in establishing the importance of the mid-card titles. But it gets worse because what happens is Austin Theory cashes in on Seth Rollins and then he fucking loses the match. So it's not only is he going for a lesser belt, but he doesn't even win the belt. And then this is similar to like when Adam was going on about Clara in the Companions video. To make it even more pointless, the very next week he won the US title in a match anyway.
Ugh.
So the briefcase was completely meaningless. And this wouldn't be so bad if it was like the territories, like in the Jim Crockett days when you had to actually fight to get a shot at the United States Championship. Like, to get, like, the television title is different, but if you were gonna get a shot at the NWA United States Championship, you were a fucking big deal. You know, you obviously not as big as the world's title. You're not fighting Flair or Race or Dusty Rhodes, but if you're trying to win the United States Championship, right, you had to fight and win matches to earn that opportunity. The problem is, WWE in the modern era has set a precedent that literally anyone can get a shot at the US title.
Wins and losses don't matter.
No, wins and losses don't matter, and also that belt can literally... Not only is it actively any fucking average mid-carder can have a shot at it randomly with no number one contendership, no tournament, no brackets, no eliminators. Like, the championship contenders matches sometimes happen, but they usually happen for, like, the world titles or the tag titles, but not the US title. And then also the fact of, you know, the era of the open challenge, which, you know, most famously by John Cena. But it's like cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase on the United States Championship in 2022 is a bit of a shit idea. And honestly, I actually think it would have been better if Austin Theory had attempted on Reigns and just lost there. If he'd lost to Roman Reigns, it wouldn't have damaged him.
Oh no, it wouldn't have. Absolutely.
But
It's
ever since, even though he's still the US champ to this day, ever since he lost that cash-in, Austin Theory has not been the same guy.
No. He's been very limited since he's changed his character, really. Because he's not a bad wrestler at all. You look at any of his early main roster NXT stuff, he had a really good moveset. He had like a quite unique moveset, and now he is like quite bland. Like, he's got nothing going for him.
He's one of the rare examples of someone that was better with Vince than Triple H.
Yeah, it's that one of the rare ones, yeah.
Because
really strange.
And it's fucking pisses me off because it actually proves that when Vince tries, he actually can book well, but he just has to give a shit. Because he actually Vince McMahon actually did book Austin Theory pretty well. It's just that
to an extent, yeah.
He's one of the only guys that he actually likes, so that's why.
And now his title reign has gone like way too long, and it also hasn't meant anything from it. And yeah, it's meant nothing.
We're reaching close to like, remember when Dean Ambrose had the US title in the Shield and was just pointless?
He had it for a year, and it meant nothing having it.
Or like when Shinsuke had the Intercontinental title and never defended it on pay-per-view.
He had it for like months and never defended it.
Yeah. It's just, it's flat. And obviously this is recency bias because this is only like, 6-8 months ago, something like that? 10 months? It wasn't that long ago. So time will tell. And I'm sure Austin Theory in time, I'm sure there's potential for him to recover. But just looking at, like, really thinking about the trajectory of Austin Theory after this cash-in, he has gone so far down. Yes, he did beat John Cena clean at WrestleMania, but no one gave a shit. That's how damaging this cash-in was for him. Like, the Money in the Bank is designed to either create a big moment for an established star, or it's going to make a new star. And in trying to make a new star, it's actually done the opposite here. And I think that, and just the booking is a disaster. It was a mess. Like the way he cashed in on Rollins, and then Bobby Lashley like attacks him, and then
Yeah.
it was honestly, it was just a shambles. Like it's probably, I mean, I think in terms of significance, a lot of people would say the Cody not winning at Mania is Triple H's biggest L, but I think in terms of just pure booking, fucking lapse of judgment, I think this is the worst Triple H booking there's been in his run so far. This cash in, because it's just, it's baffling. It's actually baffling.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Yeah, it made him look like a joke. When Vince McMahon was in charge of WWE, people were saying this guy's the next John Cena. This guy's the next guy to follow from Roman Reigns. And now ever since Triple H took over, he's had in my opinion, the worst or one of the worst cash-ins of all time. He's had one of the most dead US title reigns of all time. And he's had both Roman Reigns and John Cena absolutely bury him in promos. And he hasn't
Cena
recovered.
Especially.
Oh yeah, and he hasn't recovered because everything they said was true. So he's been exposed, and he's no one, like, he just gets no reaction. And it sucks for him because he actually used to be a bit over at one point.
Yeah.
What?
Waste of time.
Yeah, and that's all I've really got to say. For me, it's the worst cash-in because it's just kind of wrong on every levels. Like, there's just so much wrong with this.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot wrong with it.
Yeah. Although I wouldn't say by far, the one that's just above it is also garbage as well, but we'll get to that. What's your number 29?
My number 29 is also a failed cash-in. It's also by a person who probably shouldn't have won it. It's also by a person who constantly gets buried and maybe deserves a little bit better. At the time, he probably deserved a little bit better than that. But yeah, it's Baron Corbin.
Yeah, I thought so.
SmackDown 2017.
I thought so.
So not only was he probably the worst choice in the match, in the ladder match itself, when you have people like AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, who are building to their feud at WrestleMania, maybe a cash-in would have probably been neat to have at some point, I don't know. Having Baron win, probably not the best choice, but oh well. If he's going to win it, you might as well try and build him up as a main guy. At least try, if that's what you're trying to do.
I also want to point out that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were in that match as well.
They also were. They were in a bunch of matches on that
the only guy that didn't need to win it more than Baron Corbin was Dolph Ziggler. And that's only because he already won it years before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But not only that, he won it. Hey, oh well. He then goes on, I think like 2 months later or so, during the Jinder Mahal WWE title reign, because that was also a dark days in
It's when I stopped watching.
Yeah. Not only does he interrupt a match between John Cena and Jinder Mahal, just as Cena's about to win, so he's on the upper hand. He then catches in. Oh, you think you might actually win? He then gets distracted by Cena and then rolled up by Jinder Mahal, and that's it in like 20 seconds. It is without a doubt probably the worst cash-in for me.
Well,
it is absolutely the worst.
It's the most embarrassing cash-in.
It's the most embarrassing. It's the most stupid. All it does is build to a Baron Corbin, John Cena match at SummerSlam that no one remembers.
That Cena bullied him and buried him with.
Yep. In the opener at SummerSlam, and then...
Do you know what makes this even worse? And actually, you know what? I don't care. This is my number 28. I might as well talk about it. Do you know why? Do you know why this happened? It's so stupid. So, some fucking... I'm not gonna... I've got to think of the right word. Some fucking idiot doctor, I don't know who it was, but some knucklehead was having they had like a backstage meeting of all the talent in the locker room, and they were talking about like concussions, and some fucking wank ass witch doctor that Vince McMahon hired was trying to downplay the seriousness of concussions. And Baron Corbin, who used to be an American football player, spoke up and said, actually, here's the facts, mate. I know a lot about concussions because I've played football and I'm a wrestler. And these are the things that can happen to your brain when you have a concussion. So he corrected him, as he fucking should, because he's an athlete that's risking his body out there for the entertainment of us. And so this got him heat because he talked back. And so not only is he talking back and he's trying to protect the locker room from concussions, because that's really fucking important, is people's health and safety in a pro wrestling organization, of all places, where they're getting their head knocked around and whacked against the floor and fucking run against the ropes, and they get like elbowed in the head and kicked in the head and all sorts of bullshit that they have to put themselves through just so that we can sit there and laugh and have fun. But because he talked back to the doctor and corrected him as rightfully, this got word to Vince McMahon that Baron Corbin is causing heat backstage. And so Vince McMahon decided to fucking bury him on TV. On TV. So not only did he fail his cash and got rolled up in 20 seconds by Jinder Mahal, but then he went to SummerSlam and got buried by John Cena in a match where he was made to look like an absolute jobber, and then spent like the next fucking 5 years with being the most just like, what the hell are you doing kind of character. Like, he became like the general manager at one point, and then he had to shave his head, and they made bald jokes about him, and then he was a poor man, then he was a rich man, and oh my god. It like derailed his career, all because he spoke. This is the one that pisses me off the most for like real life reasons. Like the Austin Theory one pisses me off more for kayfabe reasons, because it just fucks the whole logic of why wrestling championship matches are important. But in terms of like the outside of like the behind the curtain kayfabe, like non-kayfabe stuff, this is just typical WWE bullshit politics. Screwing a guy out of his Money in the Bank briefcase reign, all because he decided to actually speak up about concussions. It's just disgusting. And like, you're right that Baron Corbin probably should have never had the briefcase, but at least have some fucking dignity and respect
at least
about it.
Have him. If you're gonna do it, you might as well have him win at some point.
It doesn't make sense as well, because Jinder Mahal rolled him up when Jinder Mahal was getting dominated. Like
he was about to lose to John Cena like 30 seconds ago. He just got hit by Super AA.
Yeah,
and
so
he's got enough strength to roll up a fresh Baron Corbin.
Like,
okay.
if it was the other way around, where Baron Corbin got hit with the fresh AA by Cena when the ref wasn't looking, and then Jinder rolled him up, it would make more sense.
Well, even then it'll still be shit. But
but at least you'd understand why he got beaten.
Yeah, it's just an embarrassing. It's like the most useless, because at least with Austin Theory, at the very least, he attempted to cash in multiple times, and there was an element of a story of him being a coward to cash in on Roman.
Yeah, that is true.
They didn't do it end well, and they should have just had him either win the US title if you're gonna do that, or have him cash in on Roman and lose. That's fine, because it's Roman fucking Reigns. This is the worst, because it's the most embarrassing one, because it's literally just done to be like, ha, look at Baron Corbin, he fucking sucks. It's the worst one. It's the worst one for me, 100%. It's the most like, what was the fucking point of anything?
And it's one of the many reasons why Vince having less control over this company is a good thing, because Jesus Christ.
It's like out of the 5 ones that are failed cash-ins, it's the shortest one, I believe.
It's so weird how he went from I'm going to push this guy to the moon to I'm going to make him look like the worst wrestler on the roster within months.
Yeah.
And that match he had with Cena at SummerSlam, I hate that match. I hated it.
I don't remember anything from it.
It's like peak Nexus era bully John Cena.
Yeah.
Which sucks because that was in 2017 when he was at the tail end of like the best run of his career, but he like reverted back to the old cringe days for one show.
And then like a week later, he has that promo with Roman Reigns before No Mercy, the famous promo.
It's so weird. It's like fucking whiplash. You go from like the worst of Cena to the best of Cena within a week.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Shame. Yeah. So yeah, bottom of the list for me is Baron Corbin, 100%. Worst cash in.
Yeah.
What a waste of time.
Yep. Yeah. For me, it was either that. For a long time, it was that, and then the Theory one happened, and I was like, oh god, they've done it again.
I still think the Corbin one is worse because it's more just embarrassing, like for the company itself.
Well, what is your number 28?
Yeah. Well, my number 20 is Austin Theory from Raw. It's basically for the same reasons as you had. It was a waste of time. You should have just cashed in on Roman and lose. That was probably the best option. At the very least, have him, if you're going to have a change of character, have him like not be a coward and cash in on Roman and lose and try. Or if you are going to cash in on the US title, fucking win it. Make him a smart heel. Because we need more of those. Bloody hell. Or just smart wrestlers in general. Yeah, just the same reasons as you. This one sucked. But I think the Corbin one is slightly worse. Just it's more embarrassing from the company perspective.
Yeah, it's... These are the fucking dirt worst cash-ins. Like, by far for me. They're just so bad. Like, so unbelievably bad. It's just like, what was the fucking point? It's like, the thing that's such a shame about it is that because you fucked it up like this, it means you have to wait a whole nother year to see another Mr. Money in the Bank. And it's just like, it just feels like we've skipped over it, you know? Fuck that. Ugh. Like, both of these men's careers are worse off now because of that cash-in. Both of them. Baron Corbin especially has never, ever, ever. I mean, obviously, you know, like the homeless man Corbin was over, but he has never been taken seriously ever again. After that cash, he's never been taken seriously ever again. And Austin Theory has gotten fucking crickets in his entrance ever since this. So, my number 27. Now, my number 27. So, I don't know whether you'll rank this as low as I do, but I have a very big personal beef with this one because this was when I was like at the peak of my wrestling hardcore fandom. I was deeply, deeply invested in WWE when this cash-in happened. And it's not necessarily because I didn't like the wrestler at the time. That's not really the reason why I dislike it. It's the booking. My number 27 is John Cena from 2012. So this was the one where he bashes Big Show with the briefcase and then it comes off the hook and he does that meme face.
You know, my hot take on that is that I actually like that as a finish.
I do
but
as
the
well.
Stupid face is kind of weird.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to think that that's a lame finish, but I like the idea of someone on the ladder using the briefcase as a weapon and it breaks off and they win.
Yeah.
I feel like as a finish, I think that's kind of like, I don't think it's like one of the best finishes ever, but I think like that's neat.
Well, what it is a happy accident. What it is a happy accident.
It wasn't meant to happen.
It was like a good botch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was a good botch.
But yeah.
I guess that's one of my hot takes.
And then the whole thing of the hype around the cash-in, right? It was very RVD-esque. And that's fitting because RVD cashed in on Cena at One Night Stand. So
yeah.
And One Night Stand in Hammerstein Ballroom is RVD's home territory. Whereas with John Cena, it's WWE Monday Night Raw. That is his home. And this is Raw 1000, which was a couple of weeks after Money in the Bank. And he's going to cash it in as the baby face of the company. He's going to tell his opponent in advance, I want to have this match on this night. Because that's the kind of person the character Cena is. Mm-hmm. He's not a surprise cash-in kind of guy. And he goes to cash it in on CM Punk, who is one of, if not his best rival. This is 1 year after the pipe bomb and 1 year after Money in the Bank 2011. and he's been the champs in Survivor Series. This is like his record reign halfway through. He's gonna set up the main event of Raw 1000 against his best ever opponent, and it's like this. The setup for this cash-in is actually a really good idea. And then they go to Raw 1000, and they have the match, and the fucking Big Show comes out and disqualifies him. It's so stupid. And it's such a lame ending to such an important wrestling show. And the
but then the Rock comes out and he fucking drops a Big Show, and then CM Punk turns heel, and everyone forget it. They do forget it.
They do an angle where CM Punk turns heel on the Rock to set up their Royal Rumble match like 6 months later in advance to make you forget that the fucking Money in the Bank cash-in was a disqualification. A disqualification by the Big Show. And that just sets up the SummerSlam triple threat match, so... Nah. This was lame. It had potential. It was a really, really good idea. And it was different. It was a different idea to what Money in the Bank usually is. You know, it was like, if you were going to do a John Cena Money in the Bank cash-in, it's going to be done like this. Let's set a day that's really important in the history of wrestling on a show that is his home, Monday Night Raw, the 1000th episode against his best opponent, best rival in his record title reign, and this is him coming off losing to The Rock at WrestleMania, so he wants redemption, you know? It had so much potential, and then the Big Show ruined it. It's almost like this is the 2015 Royal Rumble of the Money in the Bank, because the Big Show and The Rock, the Big Show ruined it and The Rock couldn't save it. Although I think the 2015 Rumble is actually worse than this somehow. Because that's an hour of shit as opposed to just the ending. Because like the 2015 Royal Rumble like ruined like at least five people, whereas this was just the briefcase. Yeah, I mean the reason why this is better than the other two is because John Cena's bulletproof by this point, so it didn't like damage his career at all. The only thing it damages is the Money in the Bank itself. And also the ending of one of the most important episodes of Raw to ever happen. Because Raw 1000 actually has a lot of good shit on it, but the way the main event ends is so lame. It's so lame. Like when Big Show ran out, everyone's just like, "Oh, are you serious? If you're gonna do a CM Punk heel turn, why don't you just have him cheat to win?"
Yeah, exactly. That'd be neat.
Why don't you just have the WWE champion win the match? On the year that's supposed to be Cena's, like, worst year of his career, right? That's the story they're trying to tell to set up fucking twice in a lifetime. Why don't you just have him lose? Why don't you just have him be pinned by CM Punk? Why don't you just have him actually fucking lose a match? How historic would that be on Raw 1000? CM Punk beats John Cena. But no, they just had to have the fucking Big Show come out there. Big Johnny Boy Cena gets number 27 for the Money in the Bank. No one remembers this either. Whenever people talk about Money in the Bank, no one remembers John Cena. The only thing they remember is the meme of his face.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your number 27?
My number 20 is actually quite similar in a sense that it's a cash-in that was already announced. It's at a pay-per-view and it ended in DQ. In a gimmick match. My number 27 is Braun Strowman, Hell in a Cell 2018. Yeah, this is so stupid because it's a fucking Hell in a Cell match. And Brock Lesnar comes in and ends the match. Even though it's fucking Hell in a Cell. That makes no fucking sense. They just end the match.
And they did it the next year with The Fiend and Seth Rollins as well.
And they did it again. Why? Fucking why? For me, this is worse than the Cena one, just because this is an actual fucking gimmick match where there's no fucking DQs. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, and this was around the time where Braun was like he was slightly losing popularity because he was probably more over like the year before. Like 2016, he got super over. 2017, he had that match with Brock at No Mercy. He didn't win. That was probably the height of his popularity. He was already waning, and he probably wasn't the right choice in the match, in the ladder match anyway. But fuck it, fuck it. But then they have fucking Brock after a month after losing his title at SummerSlam, I believe. If that was it was fucking close around that time. And they just fucking it just ends. He just comes in, breaks down the door, fucking hits him with tables, everything. He doesn't fucking care, and that's the end of the match. And no one wins, no one loses. It just ends. What a waste of fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
It's no DQ. There's no fucking DQs. Ugh. Yeah, that fucking sucks. It fucking sucked.
Yeah, I don't know what Vince was smoking that day.
I have nothing else to say. Just fucking sucked. What a fucking waste of time. Again, always a waste of time. But fucking hell, that annoys me. That annoys me. It's a fucking Hell in a Cell match.
Yep.
There's no fucking DQ.
My number 26 is Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
My only real justification for why I decided to put this over Cena is as I think this is a ranking of the Money in the Bank as opposed to, well, let me put it this way: they're both shit, but the difference is, oh, actually no, they both had an interesting build up because the SummerSlam stuff they did with Strowman was really interesting when he was teasing cashing in. But the reason why I put this over Cena is that this does more to damage the Hell in a Cell stipulation. The Money in the Bank part of this isn't actually terrible because the cash in, it's not great, but it's sort of like the point of the Money in the Bank cash in isn't ruined. However, it ruins the Hell in a Cell stipulation by absolutely just completely fucks up the whole Hell in a Cell stipulation. Like, as you said, this is supposed to be a no DQ match. This is supposed to be a match that is designed to end things with a finish. And Brock rips down the door like he's Kane in 1997, and it's just a no contest, and the briefcase disappears. Like, Braun Strowman should still have the briefcase after that match. Because it was a no contest. Right? That's not, it doesn't make sense. And then they just turned him heel as well, which was even more stupid immediately after that. So yeah, another one where the briefcase holder lost, and it lost in completely nonsensical. Like, I think the problem is that I think they just wrote themselves into a corner, and they were like, oh, we don't know what to do, so we'll just make up some bullshit. We'll have Brock come in and F5 both of them, and then that's it. And it sucks, because when Braun Strowman actually won a title at WrestleMania against Goldberg, no one cared, and it was in front of no fans, and Braun Strowman was fucking cold as fucking stone by that point, and then got released like 6 months after that. Once the tribal chief got the belt. It was fucking, yeah. Waste of time. Braun Strowman should have won the briefcase in 2017 instead of Baron Corbin. That's what they should have done. That would have made way more sense.
It was way more over at the time.
Oh yeah. If Braun had won the briefcase in 2017, he would have been so over.
And he was like still popular-ish in 2018, but it wasn't as big as like the previous
the reason you got to remember, this is like 2018 was when he won the tag champs with Nicholas at WrestleMania, so he was kind of a parody of Braun Strowman by that point.
A little bit. That was still fun. I liked that because it was just funny. It was just, if you're going to do something fun on Mania.
I mean, at least he was still entertaining by that point. But after he cashed in,
yeah, exactly, he was. Yeah.
After he cashed in, he turned heel, and his whole career turned into a fucking disaster.
Yeah, he was in a stable. Was it like with like Corbin and Drew on SmackDown for a bit, and then when the pandemic hit, he then wins the fucking title against Goldberg, like 3 years too late, and no one cares.
Yeah, and he only won that because Reigns pulled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, garbage. But as I said, yeah, I think it does more to ruin Hell in a Cell and Braun Strowman than it does ruin Money in the Bank. That's why I put it over Cena, but it's still shit.
In a sense, yeah.
It's still shit.
Yeah.
Like, and a Braun Strowman cash-in had a lot of potential, because this is a guy who's been set up to have so many different creative ways to win. And they go with not only the most uncreative way to lose, but they go with a way to lose that doesn't actually make sense. It doesn't make you.
Makes no sense.
It doesn't make you angry.
No
like, it doesn't make me angry that Brock screwed Braun Strowman. It makes me angry that the WWE officials aren't following their own rules, and then somehow they had an even worse Hell in a Cell match the next year. I don't know how they managed that, but they did. With Rollins and the Fiend. Holy fuck. Oh god, when we get to a video where we have to talk about that match, that's just going to be an absolute beat down. What's your number 26?
My number 26 was John Cena at Raw 1000 in 2012. Yeah, for the same reason. It's stupid. It's all, again, all these are the same in the sense of they're a waste of time. It's a cash-in fail that just doesn't work. It's fucking a DQ. Just, again, like you said, I agree. Have him just lose. It's fine. He can lose. He can lose this match. It's totally fine. Because especially when they play into the fact that Punk beats Cena every time, 1-on-1 at this point. It's like, it's fine. The reason why I put above Roman is because it makes sense that the DQ happened. At least it made sense that the DQ happened. It's shit, but if that's the logical follow through of that, but it's still fucking stupid.
So it's like you're eating vegetables as opposed to eating raw meat. Like you're just eating horrible tasting fucking asparagus or Brussels sprouts or something that you don't like, but at least it makes sense to eat it. As opposed to I don't know, eating toothpaste or something.
Yeah. It's still stupid. It's just everything you said I just agree with.
Just have The Rock distract John Cena and have Punk hit him with the GTS.
Exactly.
It fixes. It's not. It wouldn't be a great cash-in, but it would at least not fuck it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, God.
It's just you just hear Michael going like, the referee's got no choice. It's like, yeah, okay. It still all fucking sucks.
And like the Big Show interfering in the Cena Punk Rock feud is just fucking annoying. He didn't need to be there. This cash-in should have been the setup for what was supposed to be a triple threat match with Rock, Cena, and CM Punk, because that would have been a great match to have. If they had convinced Dwayne to work SummerSlam in 2012, that would have been an amazing way to have a SummerSlam main event with The Rock, CM Punk, and John Cena. Or even to do it at... a lot of people say do it at WrestleMania 29 instead, but I don't want to sacrifice the Undertaker CM Punk match, because that's just too good. Even though CM Punk said he wanted to main event WrestleMania, but, you know, is what it is. Right, my number 25 is, in my opinion, the worst cash-in where they actually win the belt. And that is The Miz's second cash-in from 2021 at Elimination Chamber in front of in the Thunderdome. So this is the Thunderdome cash-in, so that it already has that going against it. So fucking where do we begin with this one? Holy fuck. So they have that really strange double briefcase match with the men and the women in the 2020 pay-per-view that's inside Titan Tower.
Yeah.
And then AJ Styles pulls the briefcase down and drops it, and Otis catches it. So fucking Otis from Heavy Machinery has the briefcase. And he has it for a while. And until I think it's the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, the one with the Roman Reigns Jey Uso match that everyone loves. And then somehow The Miz convinces him to put the briefcase on the line, and then his tag partner Tucker turns heel, and The Miz wins the briefcase off him. And then The Miz cashes in on Drew McIntyre after Bobby Lashley beats him down. And then he holds it for one day and then immediately loses it.
He holds it for a week, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a week.
Right.
Because they have the whole celebration on the Raw after, and then they have the whole thing with Lashley. Like, so now that I've done that, you owe me a match because we had a deal. And then they have the match next week, and Lashley wins. Yeah.
If this was like 2016, 2017 Miz, I'd be all for it. Like when he was at his peak talking smack era Miz. By 2021, the Miz was absolutely dead. Like he just...
Oh, he was a loser.
He was nothing.
Yeah, but Connor, he deserved it.
The Miz, like, talking about before about like the Big Show joining in randomly with the title scene. The Miz interfering in the Drew McIntyre Bobby Lashley feud is so bizarre in like the build up to WrestleMania. And has The Miz done anything since then? No. Nothing. No one even talks about the fact that he was WWE champion 2 years ago. No, it was again, I think they wrote themselves into a corner because they're like, let's do something silly and put the fucking briefcase on Otis. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to make him champ, so what do? We put it on The Miz and have him cash in and win for a week and then drop it immediately and then just put him back down the card again. It was just stupid. It was dumb. And they didn't need to have The Miz win Money in the Bank again. It just didn't need to happen. It was pointless. It's just like how... It's actually... I mean, it's worse because of the booking, but it's like how when Braun Strowman won the Universal title at completely the wrong time in his career. It's the same thing here. Like, The Miz didn't need to be champion, and him being champion did absolutely nothing for the show. And then he just immediately loses it, and then it goes back to normal with Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre as if it never happened. Like, it's like, oh, we got over that, and now we move on to WrestleMania. So yeah. Now, I just think this is just... It's just garbage booking, and it doesn't... The fact that it's in the Thunderdome just makes it worse, because it's just like, there wasn't even fans there to boo it or anything. It's just like The Miz holding up the belt in front of some fucking LED screens of people on Skype. And like, when we were in the pandemic, we were, like, grateful that wrestling was even on TV. But now that we're out of it, I just don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch Thunderdome matches anymore. It just looks so awkward.
No.
I'll still watch the NXT and the AEW stuff, because that actually has, like, a bearable atmosphere. But the Thunderdome matches are just... absolutely... just... oh my god. It's unbearable. Yeah. Nah. Trash. It's not as bad as the ones below it. It's not as bad as the ones below it, I guess. Because it, like... I don't know. It's not like... It doesn't have any stupidly illogical booking decisions or anything. It's just... It just shouldn't have happened. It was just unnecessary. Like... They should have just had Otis try to cash in and lose.
Yeah.
You could have made Otis seem a bit more credible if you had him try to cash in, or, and this is something that I've always wanted them to do that they've never done, they could have had him cash in on the tag team championships. Imagine if he'd done that. That could have been unique. But no, that's not what happened. So, yeah. The Miz 2021 is my number 25. What's your number 25?
My number 25 is the last of the, if I remember correctly, the last of the failed cash-ins. My number 25 is Damien Sandow from Raw 2013.
Right, okay.
So the reason why this is sort of like top of all the lists of people who have failed to cash in, mainly just because, at the very least, the match ended as it probably should have. It had an ending. There was no bullshit, nothing like that. The reason why this is so down the list, though, is because Cena clearly, as they establish in the promo just before, he isn't 100%. Damien Sandow, meanwhile, is very fresh. And then he goes on and loses the match. So like the others, it is a waste of time, But the reason it's above the other 4, at the very least, it was a match and it ended properly. It still sucked though, because Damien Sandow was a really cool character, a very unique character. The finish of the ladder match that he won was really cool because he pushed off Cody Rhodes, who was his tag partner. It was great. It was cool. It was a unique winner at that time. No one probably expected him to win, but he did.
He's genuinely one of my favorite briefcase holders ever. Like, he's one of my favorite.
He's got the best briefcase design. It's really it's neat.
He's genuinely one of my favorite Mr. Money in the Banks they've ever done in terms of character-wise. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And the feud that he had with Cody over the briefcase was great.
Yeah.
And the way they transitioned,
and then it amounts to nothing.
The way they transitioned his character as well, like the way he stopped wearing the pink and purple and started wearing black. And his promos, man. Oh, his promos are so good.
Yeah, he was a great promo. He really was.
Yeah.
But then they have him lose some match to a not fresh John Cena. I just why book him in a way that makes him look like shit? Like this. Cena's hurt. You have Sandow come out fresh. He's like, oh, I know that you're not 100%. They then have the cash-in match, and then he just loses. That's, yeah. It's the best of the worst cash-ins, just purely for the fact that it had an ending. It ended. It was no bullshit, stupid nonsense that didn't make sense. It was a match. It ended. The reason it sucks because Sandow was great and he deserved better.
Also, one thing I'll say, but I'm probably kind of just spoiling my thoughts anyway, but if we were to rank, like, not the cash-ins as cash-ins, but if we were just to look at the cash-in matches, it's one of the best cash-in matches overall.
Yeah, because it's an actual match.
It's
as opposed to pretty much opposed to the rest, which are moments, really.
In fact, thinking about it, it's probably like this and Cena RVD from One Night Stand. They're like the best cash-in matches because they're actual matches. Yeah. Right. My number 24. My number 24 is Jack Swagger. This was my first live Money in the Bank because WrestleMania 26 is my first WrestleMania. So I just want to go through this and remind you who was in this match.
It was the last Mania match, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a 10-man ladder match, believe it or not. So you had Christian.
Wow.
You had Dolph Ziggler, back when he was like still actually, a breath of fresh air. You had the person who was actually supposed to win the match, Drew McIntyre, but he didn't, because he had a scuffle with his missus, and they buried him. You had Evan Bourne, you had Kane, you had Kofi Kingston, you had Matt Hardy, you had MVP, and you had the actual MVP of these matches, Shelton Benjamin. And the one they decided to go for was Jack Swagger. And, like, here's the thing. It's not even a bad cash-in. Like, the actual booking around the ladder match and the cash-in, the way he tried to cash in on Cena, and apparently Cena said no because he didn't want to lose to Jack Swagger. So he kind of was like, I'm not losing to Jack Swagger. So instead he had him cash in the next night, taped-wise, on Chris Jericho, the other world champ, on SmackDown. The booking is actually fine. There's nothing really wrong with the booking. It just sucks because it's Jack Swagger in 2010, who had no charisma. He couldn't cut a promo. And then if you talk about the title reign he had with his fucking weird dad and the soaring eagle, and he's one of the worst world champions of all time. He's so lame. He's the definition of a bland mid-carder. The only thing that he has on his side is that he's a legit amateur wrestler. And he's a big unit. But I don't give a shit. Like, even as a kid, I was like, I don't care. I don't care because it's Jack Swagger. And it's nothing against the guy personally. He seems like a nice guy. But he did not need to win Money in the Bank, and he did not need to win the world title. This dude is... we came off a program with like heel Chris, like, you know, we're talking like, you know, Gordon Ramsay era Chris Jericho, where he's wearing the suits and I'm the best in the world at what I do, and you have freshly returned Edge from injury. And they do that match at WrestleMania, and Edge spears him through the barricade after the match out of anger. Jericho's taped up, and they have Jack Swagger win the belt. Like, objectively, it's a fine cash-in. I just think that if it was Drew McIntyre and it was booked exactly the same way, I'd probably really like it. But it was fucking Jack Swagger. So it's got to be near the bottom because it's Jack Swagger. I can't take it I can't take it seriously. It's Jack Swagger in 2010. This wasn't even when he got like mega over with the Real Americans with Zeb, because Dutch Mantel, Zeb Coulter is great. He's an incredible promo, and back in, you know, the territory days, he was a really great like territory wrestler. And he's a fantastic character on TV, and he got Jack Swagger over with that gimmick. But that was 3 years in the future. This was fucking, I'm the all-American Jack Swagger. The only reason he really got a push is because Kurt Angle went to TNA, and Kurt Angle is better than Jack Swagger in every conceivable way. He's a better wrestler, he's a better promo, he's a better character, and Jack Swagger is just everything. He's just like a shit everything version of Kurt Angle, apart from the fact that he is a good athlete. But even then, like, his matches aren't even that great. So what's the point? What's the use of him being a great athlete if his matches at that time, you know, you can talk about matches in the future that he, you know, that were quite good. Like some of his AEW matches, like the one he had with Bryan Danielson last year was actually really good. But we're talking 2010, fucking green as grass, Jack Swagger. Now fuck off. No. Get out of here. None of that. So yeah, it's a very personal one, but this was my first ever Money in the Bank live watching it, and as a 13-year-old, I was just like, oh, no, I was 12 years old. As a 12-year-old, I was just like, nah, you can do better than this. I was like definitively up to this point, this is the worst Mr. Money in the Bank, and it's not even, well, technically Mr. Kennedy didn't cash in, but even then, Mr. Kennedy's like week or two of being Money in the Bank and then losing it is arguably better than what Jack Swagger did anyway, so fuck it. What's your number 24?
My number 24 is, in the most technical sense, not a cash-in, but she won the match and she got the title. My number 24 is Asuka from Raw 2020.
Yeah, she beat a baby for the title.
Because pregnancy. Like, I can't put any higher than this. Like, this, I don't, I've got no ill will to this. Her winning was great. She should have won, because Asuka's great. Always put the belt on her because she's grand. But it's not an actual cash-in. It was a segment, and Becky got pregnant, and that was basically it. Like, cool. Asuka having the briefcase would have been fun, but yeah.
The thing that sucks the most about this is that this segment probably would have been great if it was in front of fans.
It could have been, yeah. Also, I probably wouldn't have just. I probably would have just had Becky vacate it. Honestly, like, instead of wasting like the cash in, just vacate it and have Asuka like have a tournament and have Asuka cash in on the winner at the end. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
But having
anything else,
if they do it this way, having Becky announce her pregnancy in front of fans would have actually been really emotional.
Yeah, it would have been a heartwarming moment. Yeah,
it would have been like the opposite of what the Roman Reigns leukemia promo was like. It's like the opposite of that, where it's like a really nice moment.
Yeah.
Reality with a bit of kayfabe mixed in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I might as well say like my number. What's it called? Number 23 is Asuka. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with this. It's just not really a cash-in.
It's just, well, yeah, it's not a cash-in in the most technical sense.
I do think it was quite funny, though, that they had the belt inside the briefcase the whole time. And
yeah,
she
it
didn't
was so silly.
She's like, oh, it's got a combination lock on it. Here you go, have a belt. I have a baby. it doesn't even really count. I don't know what to say about this one. It's not a cash-in.
Yeah. You can't really. It's due to pregnancy.
The baby threw in the towel. That's what happened. Yeah,
Yep.
Like you said, there's probably a better way they could have done this.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have had it be the belt was in the briefcase. I would have just had a tournament. Have it vacate it, have a tournament, and have Asuka cash in later. That's fine. You can do that. You don't have to have the belt inside the briefcase. I think that's a bit silly.
This wasn't even the Thunderdome. This was the Performance Center.
It was the Performance Center. Yeah, it was before the Thunderdome.
This was the real dark days.
Yeah, those dark, like, couple months.
Fucking Drew McIntyre winning the WWE title to absolutely no reaction.
God, that sucks.
Yeah. It's so awkward to watch.
Yeah. Hey, but then the Big Show comes out in the real main event of WrestleMania.
The real main event. Why does the Big Show have to ruin everything?
Well,
that's always you know how there's all these people online that say, oh, All Out 2021 is one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time, and I'm like, the Big Show versus QT Marshall exists. Anyway, yeah, I don't have much more to say. It's an anti-cash-in, I guess.
Yeah,
but but at least it didn't ruin anyone's career. It didn't ruin the Hell in a Cell match. It didn't ruin the 1000th episode of Raw. It didn't make the build to WrestleMania really awkward, and it wasn't Jack Swagger. at least Asuka being champion is actually a good thing, because Asuka is one of the best women in the whole roster, whereas Jack Swagger's the opposite. Jack Swagger's probably even in 2010 with the limited roster, he's like below average. Not as an athlete. As an athlete, he's above average.
No,
but as a
wrestler character.
As a sports entertainer, Jack Swagger is very mediocre in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas as a sports entertainer, Asuka is one of the greatest.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Her reaction is quite funny though, where she's like, Becky, I'm the champion.
Oh yeah, Asuka's great. Yeah, Asuka's great.
It's a unique thing of, I just beat you for the belt, but I'm also happy for you. Anyway, what's your number 23?
My number 23 is Nikki ASH at Raw 2021.
I see.
She is probably in a very similar way to Jack Swagger. I love Nikki Cross. I think Nikki Cross is great. I think Nikki ASH fucking sucks as a character. Why would you take someone who's like one of the coolest characters on the roster and turn her into a fucking lame superhero? And then why would you have her win the fucking briefcase and then cash in like a day later? It's like it's the worst version of Nikki Cross. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why you would have her win the match and then have a fucking meaningless title reign.
It's crazy because if it was Sanity Nikki Cross, this would be so much higher on the list.
If it was Sanity Nikki Cross, it'd be fucking great. It'd be so fun. It'd be really fun. Imagine her like for like months holding the briefcase as if it's like it's the ring, like it's her precious, like it's the ring from Lord of the Rings. Like imagine it was that. That'd be fun if you book it right. But it'd be fun.
Imagine like women's champions on Raw and SmackDown or NXT walking down the hallway, and you have members of Sanity just looking at them like Eric Young and Big Damo and Alexander Wolf just looking, and obviously Nikki Cross just looking at your time is up soon.
Yeah. But instead, it's the worst version of Nikki Cross. And she gashes on Charlotte, and then like I can't remember how long she holds it for, but it ain't long. It ain't long.
Nah.
Like it was just like the most. Yeah, it was one of the most meaningless title reigns coming out of Money in the Bank. Nothing. It's the worst version of Nikki Cross.
Yeah.
I fucking hated this. I hated this character. I hated this character a lot.
I wasn't watching at the time. Well, I was.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, there was one thing I was watching. I was watching Vince McMahon bury Karrion Kross at that time, but that's different. That's a different shit.
That's very different.
Oh, 2021. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, 2021 WWE. 2021. Well, for AEW, it's great, but for WWE, it was rough. It was rough.
It was pretty rough.
And do you remember the early days of NXT 2.0? Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Oh, Jesus. when they had fucking Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner as a tag team. Do you remember Cool Kyle? Cool Kyle? No, thank you.
Yeah.
My number 22. This might be a bit of a hot take for some people because I know a lot of people really like this one, but it's Liv Morgan.
Oh, snap! So is mine.
Yep. So
Number 22. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah. So there's a few
For a
reasons for
specific
this.
reason, though.
There's a few reasons for this. Number one, 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
5 years in a fucking row. This is on the same night that she won the briefcase.
That's the big reason why it's on the list for me, honestly.
5
Because I like Liv Morgan, but fuck
years
me.
in a row. What are you doing? This is like one of the last bits of poison that Vince McMahon injected into the creative before he got exposed. Man, this. Just have Io Sky just please hold the briefcase for at least a month. Just a month.
Well, she's already the second longest holder of the women's briefcase. So
at least until SummerSlam, please. Just at least a month.
Yeah,
anyway,
just a month, please. That's fine.
So yeah, and then Liv Morgan cashing on Ronda Rousey. I could believe it to an extent, but it's it's a bit. It is stretching the boundaries a bit, but it could be believable. And then her title reign. Her title reign is dog
She had that
shit.
really average. She had that really average match with Shayna Baszler at Clash of the Castle, and then she had that. I believe was it like oh yeah, because she had the fucking SummerSlam match, which ended really strangely. I remember. I can't remember the finish. I remember it being really strange.
And then the match she lost the belt with Ronda Rousey was shocking. It was awful. It's really awkward. Lots of botches. Liv's character as well, like at the time, she was popular, but she just.
By the end of the reign, she was getting booed.
Yeah, they turned on her because the booking was just insufferable.
And then she said shit live on SmackDown, if I remember correctly.
And this isn't just Vince McMahon's fault as well, because the changeover happened during this reign. And Triple H booked her like shit too.
Yeah, and she has been booked like shit ever since, really.
The only really highlight she got was the Royal Rumble match. She did really well in the Royal Rumble match, but
yeah, that's about it.
That's about it. But nah, this I just 5 years in a row. Fuck you, Vince. Like seriously, have some balls and actually use the women. That's the biggest beef I have with this cash-in is it's 5 years in a row.
That's why
the same old shit.
That's why it's in this place for me. That's why it's this low. Because I don't hate Liv Morgan. I think she's a good wrestler. I don't think she's like great. I don't love her as much as probably everyone else did at the time. But she's decent.
But that's one of the reasons why I rank it so low, because you're dropping with the ball with such a like this. She was at the point in her career where she was finally starting to be ready as a character to actually excel. Obviously, in terms of her matches, she still has to work on some things, like in terms of her botches. But in terms of as a character, she was ready. She was over and ready to make it work, and the booking completely destroyed her momentum entirely. And then they repackaged her as a crazy woman for some reason.
Yeah, it was strange.
Like, it's weird.
And now she's a tag team with Raquel Rodriguez, Gonzalez, whatever.
The other thing that's so bizarre, and one of the reasons why I've ranked this so low, she's had the same bullshit, like, downward slope that people like Baron Corbin and Austin Theory have had, even though she won. Like, despite the fact she actually won the championship, she still had the downward slope. That's how bad the booking was. So, yeah. That's why it's my number 22, and it's yours too. What's your number 21?
My number 21 is Jack Swagger.
It's just funny.
Because when I watched the compilation, like I said, of all the cashes up until like 2020, and like, yeah, Jack Swagger winning the ladder match is so strange to me, and then him cashing in like in kayfabe, like within the same week, and he clearly is like charismatically like void. He has no personality and he's kind of lame. Like this is probably the one out of all of them that I have probably the least amount of context for, because no one fucking talks about this. Probably about him winning the ladder match, but no one fucking cared.
Well, just think about it. You're trying to sell a brand split, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have John Cena as the WWE champion, and you have Jack Swagger as the World Heavyweight champion. What does that say about SmackDown? When you look at those two guys, and if you know if you were like reading the dirt sheets at the time, you have John Cena, the guy who refused to lose to Jack Swagger on Raw, and you have Jack Swagger on SmackDown.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Pretty meaningless. Like, no one fucking cared.
No, he's one of the lamest ever world champions. He's just why did he have a fucking soaring eagle? Why? He's from Oklahoma, so they have to get the Oklahoma football team mascot as a character in the show. Oh my god. Oh, I just remembered there was that fucking match on SmackDown. It was the Soaring Eagle versus Hornswoggle. It was so bad. It's like the worst match of well, actually Caitlyn versus Maxine, but it was like the worst match of 2010. It's so bad. This was when they were doing like the Nexus angle on Raw, and you've got the Soaring Eagle and Hornswoggle on SmackDown, and you've got the Big Show squashing the Straight Edge Society. Fucking Big Show! Like, you ruined everything! It's crazy, because the year before, SmackDown was like CM Punk and Jeff Hardy feuding, and you had like The Undertaker, and you had Rey Mysterio, and you had John Morrison and Drew McIntyre. Like, that 2009 SmackDown, there was some stuff going on. But by 2010... it was Jack Swagger, and it was Kane, and it was The Big Show, and it was all your favorites getting buried. On that, The Undertaker and Kane had 3 pay-per-view matches, and they all sucked. Every single one of them stank out the joint. Especially the Hell in a Cell match. The Hell in a Cell match was so bad. My number 21 is Nikki ASH. So I wasn't really watching around this time, but you're right that, like, Nikki Cross is great, and Nikki ASH is just cringe. It's just like a cringy kids superhero thing. If you're like over the age of 10, it's really hard to suspend your disbelief with this character, because it's not.
Yeah.
This isn't like the Hurricane, because the Hurricane was actually like funny. Like Gregory Helms Shane Helms playing the Hurricane is actually entertaining, because it's very clear that this is a guy who thinks he's a superhero, but he's not. And that's why it's funny. Whereas Nikki ASH actually thinks she's a superhero, and it's really, really, really cringe. So, yeah. I mean, again, and also, like, this is the 4th year in a row they've done, like, a instant cash-in with the women. I mean, I guess it was one day, so it's not the same night, but it's still the same kind of precedent, really. She beats Charlotte with a crossbody, and then immediately loses it, like, a week later or something. Like you said, it should have just been Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross as the World Women's Champion would have been great. Absolute chaos, but Nikki ASH, nah. Who cares? Oh, and there was one thing you didn't mention. Another thing that's annoying about this cash-in is you have to listen to Byron Saxton and be really excited, which is never fun.
Yeah.
It's just like plastic biscuit cardboard, like... here we are, Nikki ASH, oh, she's won the championship. I think the main reason why I put it above Liv Morgan is because Nikki ASH is salvageable up past this cash-in. Like, she's become Nikki Cross again. She still isn't as good as she was in Sanity, but her career hasn't been ruined by it. Whereas Liv Morgan after that cash-in has been just dire.
She hasn't really recovered, no.
Does that mean it's your number 20? Yeah, I think it's your number 20.
Yes, it is. My number 20 is The Miz at Elimination Chamber in 2021. Yeah, this would probably be slightly lower if this was if Drew didn't lose the title to Randy, honestly. If this was like, Drew held the belt for nearly a whole year at this point, this would probably be lower because I'd be more pissed off about it. But Yeah, the whole, like you said, with the whole Otis stuff, Miz winning after a Tucker heel turn that didn't go anywhere because he got released like not long after that. This is like you said, this is like 4 years too late if you're gonna have a Miz cash in again, if you're gonna put the belt on Miz for a while. No, it's just like a really. Funny enough, with the Miz, it's yeah, it's just why I don't I why not just have just yeah, I don't get it. This whole just from whole Miz winning the briefcase in the first place, really, it's such a strange choice, and then him going on to actually cash in on Drew, yeah, it's just it's just a no. Like Lashley winning after like a week later, it's on a person who probably deserves the belt more at the time.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
they managed to build Drew back up for Clash at the Castle a year and a half later, and I'm so glad they did, because after this cash in, Drew was real hot like at the start of 2020 when he beat Brock and like won the Royal Rumble, and he had that weird thing where he lost to Randy and won it back. Ever since he got cashed in by the Miz, like after that, he kind of fucking floundered for a bit after when Bobby was the champ.
He did for a long while, yeah. And it wasn't until like SummerSlam the next year.
My number 20, as you said, the best loser is Damien Sandow. So, okay. So, I've ranked this above quite a few that actually did win it. And here's the reason why. Because everything up until he lost, I mean, obviously him making him look a bit stupid with him losing, with Cena being hurt and him not being fresh. As you said, booking-wise, it does bury him. And after this point, it took him becoming a babyface to actually recover, and he did the whole Mizdow thing. That was great. And then they actually buried him after that, but that's not relevant to Money in the Bank. But the thing is, Nikki ASH sucks, Jack Swagger sucks, Becky pregnancy thing just kind of nullifies things, the Miz 2021 is just pointless bullshit, and the Liv Morgan booking was just atrocious. Damien Sandow, the ladder match he won is one of my favorite Money in the Bank ladder matches ever. The all-heel Money in the Bank, which turned Cody babyface. The feud he had with Cody. The custom briefcase, the promos, the repackaging him as a more serious version of the aristocrat with the black attire. The way he was taking things more seriously. And then the promo he cut on John Cena. Like, this guy made me believe that he belongs on the level, charismatic-wise, as John Cena, who's supposed to be the top guy in the company. Damien Sandow made me believe that he belonged there on promo, and then immediately after that, he made me believe that he belongs in the ring with Cena. And they had him do the whole thing of targeting the limb. If he had won this match, this would be one of my favorite cash-ins of all time. Because everything about this was great until he lost. I love Sandow, and 2013 was like him at his peak as a heel. The match was actually really, really good, not only from like the fact that it was competitive, but the way that they told the story around the injured elbow, coming off SummerSlam when he had the tennis ball elbow, then came back and beat Del Rio for the belt. And the whole thing of Sandow desperately trying to win, the whole thing of him doing the crossface, and Cena's never tapped before, but he's got an injury. Like, there was so much going on to this match. It's just the fact that he fucking lost it. And the only reason why he really lost it is because they were unifying the belts at TLC, so he had to lose it.
Yeah.
And there were like bigger and better things in the near future, and it's such a shame. I feel like you could have had him hold the briefcase until after WrestleMania 30, and you could have had him cash in on someone there. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. You could have had him try to cash in on Daniel Bryan, or you could have had the situation I said of the briefcase expires because Bryan was injured, the belt was vacant. You could have done a storyline where Sandow was like, I need to cash in on someone, but there's no champion. What the fuck happens?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stuff you could have done there. So,
Especially at that time where they knew they were going to unify the belts, they could have waited.
Yeah. So like, I don't like that Sandow lost, because I loved Damien Sandow. Like when 2013, when I was watching in 2013 every week, he was one of my guys. We're talking about like the boys from the mid card, because the main eventers are just a different level. But if we're talking about like favorites from the mid card, Sandow was one of them. I fucking loved Damien Sandow. His promos are great. His custom briefcase was great. His feud with Cody was great. His match with Cena was really great. I just hate that he lost. So yeah, out of all the ones where they lost the cash-in, this is by far the best, because it actually has redeeming qualities. And even though the WWE never booked him seriously again, the fans remember. The fans remember Damien Sandow because of this cash-in. And that guy, whenever he meets fans like at conventions or whatever, or at like shows that he goes to, they always say to him, I wanted you to win that match. Because even though he was the heel, this was like peak Cena being booed, like point in time. And Sandow was so good. He was so good as a heel, you just wanted him to win. So yeah. Oh yeah, and when I rewatched this cash-in on YouTube today, I looked at the comment section for it, and some of the comments are legendary. One of them was, I want Cena's theme song to be played at my funeral so that they know I'm getting buried.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it did bury Damien Sandow for a good while until he finally turned babyface. It's a frustrating one, for sure. But this was like, and after this, you notice they never did the brand split briefcase again. I mean, technically they ended the brand split by unifying the belts, but this kind of proved the whole problem of having a SmackDown and a Raw briefcase, is you end up in a situation like this where they have to unify the belts, and after that, like, they split it again, but they do it men's and women's, which makes way more sense. Having one briefcase cash in for 2 belts makes way more sense than having 2 briefcases for 2 belts. Because I never liked that they did that, because it meant you could only cash in for your brand's belt. I loved I loved it in the Ruthless Aggression era when the briefcase could be done for any of the belts. The same way that the Royal Rumble can be done for any of the belts.
Yeah.
Shit, they could have had Damien Sandow cash in on the NXT championship if they wanted to.
If they really wanted to, yeah.
But I think back then it was before the network, so those shows were taped like months in advance, so it probably wouldn't have worked. But anyway, regardless, I have a real soft spot for this cash-in because I watched it when it happened, and I loved everything until he lost. So there you go. Oh man, if Sandow had beaten John Cena, what that would have done for that guy's career if he beat John Cena.
My number 19 is Alexa Bliss at Money in the Bank 2018.
Snap.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yep.
For me, it's like, it's a DQ to the Nia Jax Ronda Rousey match, which is a match that I didn't give a fuck about. But at the very least, she wins it. At least she's in character, Bliss. This cash-in makes sense for her character, but it's still like, again, was this no, this was the first of the women cashing in 5 years in a row.
Yeah, and this hadn't happened in 8 years, so it was actually a surprise.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, my bad. Dean Ambrose did happen as well.
No, Dean Ambrose.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, 2 years ago, to be fair, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a match that I like. It's against Nia Jax. She wins it, and it's like, the best thing about it is that it makes sense for Bliss to do it, because after they had that match at Mania, that's probably the highlight of it. I don't care because it comes from a DQ. It makes sense, but it wasn't really Bliss at her highest. It was sort of the year before. I don't really care about this cash-in that much. It's on the same show. But the issue with this one is if I'm remembering correctly, Ronda wins it like not that long after. The only reason they had Bliss cash in is because they probably didn't want Ronda to beat Nia or have her win the belt just yet. I would have just had her Ronda win the match and then Bliss cash in.
Also, in terms of like historical and significance for the cash-in holder, this is not Bliss's first women's title. She won the SmackDown Women's Championship in 2016 before this, so she'd already been champion before. So that does
a couple times at this point. A couple times.
Yeah. So
she was SmackDown, and then she was Raw for a while, and then got beat by Nia at Mania, and then this is the only 2 months after. Yeah.
So it's not as significant for her career. She was already a main eventer before the Money in the Bank.
Yeah, this was a match that had you had Becky Lynch, you had Naomi, you had Lana in it for some reason.
Oh god, fucking
Lana.
Lana.
There's probably probably Naomi would have been the better choice at the time. Maybe Becky. I don't think Alexa was the best choice if she's gonna cash in. In terms of her character, makes sense. She cashed in instantly. But I feel like there were better choices, really.
Yeah. Anyway, so we both snapped, did we? So that means it's my number 18.
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay. So this cash-in, objectively speaking, is well booked. But I have personal beef with this, and so does a lot of other people, because well, in hindsight, it's not the right guy. But at the time, it was the right guy at the wrong time. It's Alberto Del Rio. Because this was in the middle of the summer of Punk, when CM Punk was white hot. And when I say white hot, I'm talking Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998 levels of white hot.
He was massive.
You think CM Punk's a big draw now? Go back to 2011. This guy was the biggest thing in wrestling.
Yeah, and the feud with Cena at the time. The Money in the Bank build-up was better than the SummerSlam build-up, but this was still a hot feud.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because the SummerSlam build-up had that time when they buried Rey Mysterio, and John Cena was a bully.
Yeah, and they had Rock via satellite for a segment where they were doing the signing. Yeah.
The one thing I loved about Del Rio being the briefcase holder was what they did at Money in the Bank. That was great when Vince is like, "Get Del Rio out of here right now," and then CM Punk just kicks him in the head.
Great. That stuff was great.
That was great. But Kevin Nash powerbombing CM Punk and Del Rio coming out to fucking no one gives a shit reaction, because he's so irrelevant. This is a guy who he's I was on SmackDown when SmackDown was the B show level of I'm not a main eventer, you know? And him just sort of joining into CM Punk and John Cena's feud kind of killed it. Especially because it meant CM Punk was supposed to have a feud with Kevin Nash, but Kevin Nash was not cleared, so he had it with Triple H, and Triple H beat him, and it was dumb. And then they just immediately had John Cena win the belt back. At the next pay-per-view. Yeah. So yeah,
wasn't it a triple threat? Hell in a Cell, or was it Cena and Del Rio? I can't remember.
No. So I'll explain it. So Del Rio won at SummerSlam, CM Punk versus Triple H at Night of Champions, and Cena versus Del Rio at Night of Champions.
And he lost.
Cena won the belt, and then the rematch was in Hell in a Cell, and CM Punk was there as well. Del Rio hit CM Punk with a lead pipe. Del Rio hit CM Punk with a lead pipe and won the belt back again. And then Cena and Del Rio had that weird match after Big Show and Mark Henry broke the ring. I think it was a last man standing match at Vengeance. And Del Rio retained by bullshit shenanigans. And then you had the match where Howard Finkel announces CM Punk at Madison Square Garden and beats Del Rio for the belt. And that starts the 434-day reign. But the
Summer of Punk in November.
You literally had the hottest guy in wrestling beat John Cena at SummerSlam to be the undisputed WWE champion. And then Kevin Nash texts himself to powerbomb CM Punk, and then Alberto Del Rio cashes in, and no one gives a fucking horse shit about this guy. He's so irrelevant. And it's even worse in hindsight because Alberto Del Rio is a notable prick.
Yeah. At the time, though, it was very over.
Yeah, but he wasn't over enough to like be good enough to be involved in the summer of CM Punk. I don't think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like he's not Jack Swagger levels of bad, because I can believe him as like a low level world champion, Del Rio, even though he's not like a great world champion. He's like a Sheamus tier world champion in my mind. But not in 2011. This was the wrong time to do this. It was just so you interrupted the hottest angle in wrestling in like the last 10 years since like arguably the invasion angle, to have Alberto Del Rio as the champion. It was just unnecessary. So yeah, that's why it's my number 18.
My number 8. Oh god, a lot of people have beef for this one because it was so fucking stupid this whole month. Apart from little nuggets that were quite fun. My number 18 was Brock Lesnar at Extreme Rules 2019.
Ah yes, Boombox Brock.
Yeah. The only good thing about this entire thing was Boombox Brock, and that was it. The segment he had with Paul Heyman, where he's like, "I've got a year." That was fun. That was really funny.
He whacks him in the face with the papers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's really funny. And then he comes up with the boombox a couple of times. It's really funny. That's the most fun we get out of this whole thing. Because not only does he win the match, he wins the match when he wasn't even fucking in the match. Makes no fucking sense. They did this stupid.
And I can't believe they did the same thing with MJF at All Out. They did the exact same thing, and it was also very stupid.
Yeah, they did. It was also very strange. Yeah. But then, at Extreme Rules, there's a really shit feud, by the way. You have Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, versus Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh, no, I forgot about that.
They have that match because they were both of the people were feuding. It was a really shit feud at the time.
Well, it's probably because...
The match ends, then Brock comes out and cashes on Seth.
It's you know, like... The reason why that feud is so shit is because one team is so much more important than the other. Like, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are two of the top names. I mean, Becky Lynch by that point was the top name on the women's brand.
At the time.
Seth Rollins is one of the top names on the men's brand. And at the time, yeah, he was really over. And Baron Corbin, post Money in the Bank bullshit, Baron Corbin, and Lacey Evans, who no one has ever cared about. Why are they in the main event? And was it even that much damage for Seth Rollins to be cashed in on? After a like tag match you'd expect to... This is a tag match you'd expect to see...
This was during the time where we were about to approach Seth Rollins on Twitter being an absolute dickhead. Yeah, and then... So I make more money than Will Ospreay. And then he got booed out of the building by the end of the year and had to turn heel. And
the Hell in a Cell match with The Fiend, which is like his worst match of his whole career.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah. That's what really turned him.
Oh, I hate that match. I hate talking about it. I hate thinking about it. I hate looking at it.
Really bad.
It's too red. It's too red. Why is it so red? You've got a red cell with red lighting. It's too much red.
Yeah. And it's annoying because the month after this cash-in, they have a great match at SummerSlam.
They do.
If I remember correctly.
They do, yes.
It's just this cash-in, everything about this, apart from Brock himself, everything else around this was shit. It was really shit.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a bad cash-in, like everything around it. Because at this point, you had Baron Corbin, because he had gone bald around this time, and was the assistant GM, or whatever, the commissioner, or whatever the fuck. And it fucking was a really shit time to watch Raw. This was like Raw. was like really bad to watch.
Why does Vince McMahon think Lacey Evans is a star?
I don't know. Lacey Evans sucks.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, this whole cash-in was shit.
Yeah.
Brock was the only good thing about it, but everything else around it was really lame.
Right, my number 17. Oh, I hate saying it to be this low, because these days, if he was Mr. Money in the Bank, he'd probably be great. But my number 17 is Sheamus.
Oh,
from
snap.
2015. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so, okay. There's a few things that went wrong here. Number one, when he was Mr. Money in the Bank, he lost a lot. He lost a lot of matches in 2015. He was booked like dog shit. Not just throughout the year, but on the show he cashed in on, he was treated like an absolute joke earlier in the night. He was a fool. And then, so Seth Rollins got injured, and they did a tournament, and Roman Reigns wins his first ever WWE Championship. But obviously, Roman Reigns is not. This is P Boo Roman Boo. And they have him win against Dean Ambrose, who's actually liked by the crowd. So that was a bit of a weird choice. But what they try to do to make up for that and try to get him over is to add heat to the other side. So they have Triple H as his rival, who's eventually going to be his main event of WrestleMania, which sucked, by the way. And they have Sheamus cash in on Reigns to start the League of Nations angle, which was it was so terrible.
Oh, God.
And they have all this confetti and the bro kick, and Sheamus as champion ruins Roman's night of coronation being his first night as champion. And Roman, that shot of Roman with his hands on his head, it's so corny. It's so shit. Honestly, that pay-per-view sucked. That pay-per-view sucked so bad. And this isn't like banger after banger after banger Gunther at Clash of the Castle Sheamus that we have now. This is like, I'm a fucking rooster Sheamus. I look silly, and I lose every match except for when I cash in Money in the Bank. They tried to get Roman Reigns over. It didn't work. They actually booed him more by WrestleMania 32. Yeah. They actually hated him even more.
Apart from Raw, where he won the belt back with Vince involved,
that's true.
They cheered him like a lot. Like for a couple weeks, they cheered him, but then Royal Rumble, he was booed out of the building again.
But I have ranked this low, and this is because I hate this cash in because it makes the WWE champion look like shit. When Sheamus is WWE champion in other reigns, like he had, especially when he was world champ on SmackDown, I didn't like the babyface gimmick, but like the booking was strong. But when Sheamus was WWE champion here, he was so bad. His booking was atrocious. This guy was not booked like a world champion at all. Roman Reigns beat this faction in like a 4-on-1 handicap match clean.
Yeah.
And this isn't like, fucking James Ellsworth and Gilbert. This is Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, Rusev, and Wade Barrett. These are 4 guys who are worthy of actually being contenders for, if not main event, upper mid-card matches. And Roman Reigns beat them in 4-on-1 handicap matches to try and get him over as a strong babyface, but people just hated him because he made 4 guys that people had invested their time in look like shit. So it made Sheamus look shit, it made Roman Reigns look shit, it made Rusev look shit, it made Alberto Del Rio look shit, it made Wade Barrett look really shit, because he took most of the brunt of that. And it gave us another Triple H world title reign for some reason. And throughout all of that, the one common denominator between everything, between that Survivor Series, between the Royal Rumble match, and between what fucking happened at Mania with this guy, Dean Ambrose should have been the champion the whole time, and people would have cheered. You know why? Because they wanted it to happen. It was crap. It's not as bad because at least, like, the camera work did its job, And the confetti happening and then the cash-in happening after the confetti is actually quite a cool visual. The cash-in happening after the confetti celebration. But fucking Roman Reigns' first night as champion. It's just... Nah, it was crap. They tried to get everyone over and they got everyone the opposite of over doing this angle. It was garbage.
Yeah, and I snapped, and I pretty much agree, like, with everything. The only reason it's probably as high as it is because looking back, it's funny. Like, it's bad funny, really, looking back at it, and all the, like, over-the-top shit. Like you mentioned, like, the shot of Roman like that. Like, it's shit, but it's quite funny. They
zoomed in on those cringy blue contacts he used to wear that made him look like some superhero. I hated that. I hated the contacts so much. I hated that. Oh, it's so cringe.
It's really, really bad. It's really bad. Yeah, Sheamus shouldn't have won that match. I can't remember who else was in that match at the time, but there was a couple of people who probably should have won it.
Oh, 2015?
Sheamus.
I think Ambrose was in it.
Ambrose. I think Ambrose was in a ladder match with Seth, which was a really good match.
Oh, yeah, true, he was, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm thinking
2016. Roman was in the match. Kofi Kingston was in the match. Oh, Corporate Kane was in the match. Neville. You know, it was a strange one. Randy Orton, I think, was in it as well. It's
Sheamus being Mr. Money in the Bank in like another year where he's well booked could have been great. Like Sheamus now.
But this wasn't one of them.
No, this was like this was one of Sheamus's not very good times as being a wrestler.
If anything, this match is sort of like the ladder match itself. The only real person who probably should have won it was probably Neville.
You know what's crazy
but
is that
at the time he wasn't booked well.
You know what's crazy is because remember when Vince turned Sheamus into Irish John Cena on SmackDown, and he was like doing the whole 1-800-fella bullshit, and he became like the most stale babyface by 2014. And I was just like, turn him heel, do it now, turn him heel. I'm so sick of this, just turn him heel. And then they turned him heel, and he changed his hair, and they booked him even worse somehow. They made him have an absolutely abysmal WWE Championship reign. That's just like embarrassing. This I'm pretty sure this was the last time Sheamus was a world champion as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
What on earth?
And he wasn't booked well until the last, until the bar. The bar was great.
Yeah, well, it was.
And
when
then after that,
it was when he had.
Till like now.
It was when he had the best of 7 series with Cesaro. That's when he recovered.
Yeah, that was good. And then yeah.
Those matches were so physical.
Yeah, they even had a couple on house shows, which was quite cool.
But League of Nations Sheamus can fuck off.
Oh god, League of Nations as a whole. The only good thing about League of Nations was Rusev. He was the only fun part about it. He took at the Royal Rumble. He took one of the TV monitors from the commentary table, and he said, "I am now the TV champion." Because he's fun. Because Rusev / Miro is fucking great.
Yes, and he should have been the WWE champion instead of Jinder Mahal. Oh,
Rusev Day was massive.
2017, yeah. And then, if not that, he should have won the US title at WrestleMania 34, but that was also Jinder Mahal for some reason.
Yeah.
Ugh! Vince McMahon, why? I know you want to line your pockets with India's money, but Rusev was the guy. Anyway.
Yeah, he was.
Right.
Yeah.
So you snapped, so that means you're number 16.
Yes, my number 16 is The Miz from Raw 2010.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's Miz for the Reign. The Reign was shit. The match he had at Mania was shit. And this cash-in is only decent, really, because of Miz Face.
Let's also not forget he had that shit feud with Jerry Lawler as well.
He did have that shit feud.
That went on for months. That went on for months.
It was really, really bad. Yeah, it was the only cool thing I think about the match was that the transition from an attempted RKO into a skull-crushing finale was decent. But yeah, the Miz winning. The Miz just being world champion is just. I don't even hate the Miz. I think the Miz is actually a good wrestler, but he's not a main eventer.
But it's weird because you look at the two cash-ins that the Miz did, which are his 2 world title reigns, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's at his best halfway between them in 2016.
Yeah.
But when he was actually the champion,
probably, yeah.
When he was like in 2010, it was too soon, and 2021, it was too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just. Again, the only good thing about this cash-in was the Miz Girl face meme, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got no other words for it. It's probably one of the more iconic cash-ins, but it's not a good one, I don't think.
I think it hits different if you were watching when it happened. At least I'll talk about it when I get to it, because it's different if you saw it at the context of the time.
Mm-hmm. The one good thing though about the Miz's reign was the promo package before the match at Mania. That promo package is really good.
Oh yeah. Although I haven't forgotten the fucking 3 Ghosts of Christmas episode of Raw that was absolutely abysmal. It was like when the Miz, Alex Riley, and Michael Cole were doing their heel comedy shtick, and it was not funny.
Oh god. I'm glad I wasn't watching them, bloody hell.
Oh, I remember. I remember when Hornswoggle was in DX. How fun was that? I remember when John Cena and Jerry Lawler made Vicky is so fat jokes on live television. I remember when John Cena covered Michael Cole in barbecue sauce.
And Dolph Ziggler, AJ Lee in shit.
Yep. Anyway.
Now that was in 2013, I think.
My number 16 is Brock Lesnar. So, this is like a weird thing, because the worst thing about this one is the very start and the very end. Brock Lesnar being in the match makes no sense. He shouldn't have won because he wasn't in the match. Right? He wasn't in the match. So why is he in the match? And they did it with MJF at All Out as well. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. And the cash-in itself happened after a match, which it's weird that, like, it's that tag team match is not the kind of match that you cash in on after. It's like the kind of match you'd see in like the mid-card of Raw.
Mm-hmm.
If Seth Rollins had been like beaten the shit out of by Braun Strowman or something, that would make more sense, but not by Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. Yeah, so the cash-in itself is lame, and him winning the match makes no sense. Everything in between, though, is great. Boombox Brock is so funny. This is finally, after years of being really serious, Brock actually kind of letting out his sort of... I mean, he did, in his original run, he had that feud with Eddie Guerrero where he did that hilarious segment where he wore the sombrero. I love that. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Brock can be really funny, unintentionally and intentionally. But this was the kind of the test run for Cowboy Brock, I think. Boombox Brock.
Yeah.
It was like, he can actually be a really entertaining, funny guy. I love the Boombox Brock stuff on Raw, where he's playing the songs, and then the Paul Heyman skits is great. But also the underlying thing of, because he's not taking it seriously, it actually makes him scarier, because he's like, I can win. Easy.
I can catch him whenever.
Yeah, because I'm Brock Lesnar.
I imagine he was gone for like... I would have much preferred if he was just gone for months and didn't come back, and then he just came back on a random pay-per-view.
Yeah, and
not
if you
like a month after he won it.
Yeah, like imagine if you'd forgotten that he existed and then he just turns up randomly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if what they did with Braun Strowman's one, which was shit, if they did that with Brock Lesnar and he comes in a Hell in a Cell match, rips the door off and wins the belt, that would be amazing.
That'd have been great.
Like, if they'd done that during the Fiend and Seth Rollins match. Although they had, although to be fair, he was on SmackDown by that point, and he did a much worse thing. Oh God. Ugh. Or just have him cash in on Kofi Kingston in a way that's different to what they actually did.
Coulda.
Yep. Anyway, but yeah, the him winning the match is stupid, and the cash in was really lame. But Boombox Brock was so good. It's kind of like the Sandow thing, where the actual him being Mr. Money in the Bank is really entertaining. Except the difference is he won.
Just have it be announced for the match. Like, it doesn't have to be a super long ladder match. It could be 10 minutes. It could be a relatively short one if you want. Just have him be in the match.
Have
him just like dominate the match.
Have all 7 other competitors dogpile him with ladders, and then have him explode at the end.
Yeah. If you want to do that, yeah, exactly. You could have had him in the match.
I don't think Brock Lesnar wants to do a metal ladder match, to be fair.
Then don't do it.
Just have Mustafa Ali win the briefcase.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And also, it was pointless because Brock lost the belt back to Rollins at SummerSlam anyway. So, yeah. Waste of time. So you've done your 16, haven't you?
I have, which was the most.
Alright, you're number 15.
My number 15 is Alberto Del Rio at SummerSlam 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, for pretty much the same reason as you. It's probably slightly higher just because I probably think at the time Del Rio was slightly more over than if he was like if he cashed in now, for example, it'd be way lower down the list. At the time, he was like on the rise. Like, I don't think as a Money in the Bank winner, he's a bad choice. I just think the cashing in on Punk after Kevin Nash interference is kind of lame.
If he had cashed in on like Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship at that same pay-per-view, that would have been way better.
Yeah, that's the issue with doing the matches be for separate belts at the time. That was, yeah, it's just. But the thing is that they had Daniel Bryan win that match, which was a great choice.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that was a great choice. We'll talk about him later. But yeah, it's just like one of the most average cash-ins, and it does just kind of ruin the summer of Punk. Really,
yes, it does.
A lot, but I don't think it's as bad as stuff like Strowman, Theory, Orton, Swagger, Miz twice. But I don't think it's as bad as those cash-ins because at least it fits with the character. It is just an average cash-in. Really.
You know what it's like? It's like you've been invited to a house party. You know, you're in like the last year of high school, the first year of uni or something, and you've been chatting up this girl you really like for a few weeks, and things are going really well, and you meet at the party, and you have a few drinks, and you're getting along, and you think it's going to lead somewhere, and then at 11:30 or like midnight, some random guy turns up to the party and just takes her. That's what it is. That's what it is. He just randomly turns up at the last minute. It's just like,
and you know what also makes this like a lot shittier as well is that in the actual Punk Cena match, they have Cena's foot on the ropes, but they have Punk win, and it's just sort of like, did you need to do that? Did you need to have Cena look strong?
And Cena gets the rematch, not Punk.
Yeah,
which is bullshit because Punk won the match.
Punk doesn't get his actual rematch until November.
Yeah,
which is fucking stupid.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's just this is just an average cash in. It's like, nah.
CM Punk's record title reign should have started at Money in the Bank, and he should have never lost it until he lost it in 2013. And he should have, yeah. So what was that, your number 15?
Yes.
All right. So my number 15, I'm quite conflicted on this one. This was a bit hard to rank because it has some good elements, but it also has bad elements as well. My number 15 is Carmella.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. So I like that unlike the other women, she actually held it for the longest time I think anyone's ever held it.
She's the longest holder of the briefcase.
Yeah. And the
by
whole
a week.
And the whole Mela is money thing was a really good gimmick for her. It fit her character. However, a bit like Brock Lesnar, the worst thing about Carmella is the very start and the very end. Because James Ellsworth wins the ladder match, not her, and they have to do it again on SmackDown. So that was fucking weird. And then when so there's a couple of things with her cash-in that go weird. So firstly, why does Mike Chioda take so long to accept the cash-in? She's just like, cash it in! Cash it in! And he's just like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Yes, yes, yes! It takes him like 30 seconds to, and he turns around and he's just like, are you sure?
It's so stupid. I love it. I love how stupid it is.
So unnecessary. And the worst thing is, a title reign is so annoying. Because they had Asuka's undefeated streak end at WrestleMania to Charlotte, and then they had Carmella beat her twice. Why did they do that? But yeah, I this is better than Brock Lesnar because at least she was actually supposed to be in the match, and she held it for a long time and got a run with the briefcase. Whereas Brock cashed it in at the next month, which was just a waste of time. So yeah, I think it's not a bad one, but I think I also don't particularly rate Carmella compared to some of the other women's wrestlers. She's alright, but not my favorite. But this was probably one of her best runs that she ever had, though, because I think after she lost the belt, she kind of became irrelevant for a long time. And now she's definitely irrelevant because she's off. She's not competing anymore because of all the pregnancy stuff she's been going through. I mean, she was kind of cool as like Enzo and Cass's valet in NXT, but that was not really as singles. Yeah, I mean, she made a decent Miss Money in the Bank, but I just think the booking of the ladder match, and then the cash in itself, and then the reign was just very, very frustrating. Bloody James Ellsworth. Such a weird time. Yeah, so that's my number 15. I suppose that means what's your number 14?
My number 14 is Kane at Money in the Bank 2010.
I see.
They first ever cashed in on the same show as they've won it. Yeah, I think this is a decent cash in. It's Kane. Like, it's like out of all the other people in the match, like you probably could have had like quite a few of the other people in it win it. Kane is a strange choice, but you know, yeah, like him cashing in straight away, like it was quite a unique moment. It was the first ever cash in on the same show. Obviously, it was at the first Money in the Bank show, but you know, it was the first time the cash in would happen on the same day, which was quite fun. And he absolutely dominated Rey Mysterio in like a minute and won, which is quite. Mysterio's always good for those kind of matches. Like, if a quick like get dominated kind of matches, this was quite fun.
This was also a heel turn as well.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that, it was a heel turn for Kane. He became the devil's favorite demon, and he held the belt until TLC. He held it for ages.
Yeah. I would say like this is a perfectly fine cash-in. I think it's perfectly fine.
It was groundbreaking at the time. Like people were shocked when he. I like that he did the tombstone pile driver as well.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Although it looks funny him doing it on Ray, who's absolutely tiny. Yeah.
Like you had Matt Hardy, you had Cody, you had Drew, Christian.
To be
Ziggler.
fair,
we could have won it.
To be fair, by 2010, Matt Hardy was very, very not in the best place. He was.
Oh no, I don't imagine he was. Yeah.
This was back when in the YouTube comments they were calling him Fat Hardy. Because it was after Jeff left and he was just by himself as a babyface, but it was before he went to TNA and reinvented himself.
I like how in this match, and I think the year after, they had the big, like, gold ladder.
Oh, I remember now. This was the year when Matt
Yeah.
Hardy was Justin Gabriel's NXT pro and he fell over the ropes in his entrance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else you want to say about Mr. Kane?
It's a fine cash in, you know.
This was the last. This got Jack Swagger out of the title picture as well, which is funny because he also cashed in Money in the Bank like a few months before this. It's weird. All right, my number 14. Now this might be a bit of a hot take because it's a beloved moment, but there's one thing that ruins this. Well, there's two things that ruin this for me. It's Big E.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
So, Big E winning the WWE Championship from Bobby Lashley. I love that. That's heartwarming. I loved watching that. However, firstly, he announced that he was going to do it on social media before he did it, which was dumb. I hated that he did that. If it was a surprise cash-in, it would have actually... It's like when, when trailers have spoilers in them for the film you're about to watch.
Yeah.
It's just don't do that. It's like the next time trailers in the Russell T Davies era just give away the whole story.
Yeah.
I hate it. The Aliens of London World War III next time trailer, like the one where you see he's out and not electrocuted.
Yeah.
Or like the one from the end of the Eaters of Light when it spoils the Master.
Yeah.
And the Cybermen. It's like that. And then the other thing was, firstly, the title reign wasn't great, and then he lost it at day one to Brock, and then a couple
when
months
he shouldn't, when he wasn't meant to.
Yeah, and now this isn't a booking thing, but it's fucking salt in the wound that he got that neck injury a couple of months after as well.
Yeah.
So I love that Big E won the belt. It's a really lovely moment. I just hate the way they went about it. It just pisses me off.
Yeah.
Don't spoil dude. One of the best things about Money in the Bank is that you can't predict what's going to happen, and they fucking spoiled it.
Yeah, it's a surprise.
Why does Bobby Lashley look surprised? Why does Bobby Lashley look up and go, "Huh? What are you doing?" He literally put it on Twitter earlier in the day. Are you stupid? And Bobby Lashley's too old for social media, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, this one should be higher. It only takes a few tweaks to put this one higher than it is. Like this one should be higher, but it's not because there's just things about it that piss me off. But as is the case with Vince McMahon's booking in 2021, to be expected. What is your number 13?
Yeah. So all of the rest of these ones, these are the cash-ins that I do quite like, I'd say. This one's probably... I don't know how people are going to react to this one, because this is probably the one that I have the least amount of context for, I think. Because I haven't watched a lot around this time. But my number 13 is Edge from SmackDown 2007.
Right, okay.
Mainly because I don't have a lot of context for the cash-in. But watching the cash-in itself, which I did earlier when ranking these, I think it's quite cool. It's against The Undertaker after, he got beaten down. The Undertaker's bleeding, and it fits with Edge's character, and it's on a SmackDown. I'd say
it's the big fist. The big fist.
It's got a lot of
SmackDown.
good things going for it. Yeah. It's got a lot of things going for it, and it fits with Edge and his character. So I don't really have much of a comment than that, but just from the fact that what I've watched, it seems like a good cash-in. I don't know the rest of the context, so if I eventually learn what the context was in a larger scale, maybe it will go higher, maybe it'll go lower. I don't know. I imagine it's not.
I'll get into it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of context actually. It's one of the more interesting cash-ins actually.
I imagine it is because when I would listen to the commentary, I remember Cole going, "It's like, no, God damn it! Like, he was like especially pissed off of it. So I imagine there's probably a larger context to this. I just don't know it, which is like I can't really rank it any higher than probably here.
I'll tell
But
you
in terms of like all the other ones below it, yeah,
I'll tell you what,
it's way better.
It's one of the ones that the people were the most surprised by, because it was literally like, holy shit. So yeah, I'll explain later when I get to that one.
Yeah, cool.
Right, my number
I think it's a good cash in.
My number 13 is The Miz from 2010. So I think nostalgia will play a role here, because this was when I was like in my first year of being a wrestling fan. But I actually really liked The Miz as the United States champion and as Mr. Money in the Bank. His promos were getting we're getting a lot, like his run before he won the belt was better than the run he had when he actually won the belt, because he was a really, really good United States champion. He had that weird run with Big Show when he was a tag champ. I'll just ignore that. But that was before Money in the Bank. He made a really great Mr. Money in the Bank, and also that's when Alex Riley was his pro on NXT, his rookie, I should say, and Riley was kind of shadowing him. It's the same reason why Riley would hold the briefcase when Miz was champion, which led to Riley's face turn when he attacked him with it. But this came like right. I remember this because this came when the Nexus angle was like the original Nexus angle before CM Punk got involved was coming to its end, because this was after Survivor Series. And I remember that throughout the whole Nexus period of time, when that was going on, the Miz was kind of just trying to keep out of harm's way, so that when eventually the opportunity came to cash in, it would happen. And so they did a bit of that, and like I said, when they booked Miz as a mid-carder before he became champion, they actually did a really good job of establishing him, because he went from the fucking chick magnet on ECW, and he was a joke, and he had like the faux hawk and the long pants, and it was he had that really fun tag team with John Morrison though. They had really funny segments. But then after the 2009 draft, Miz turned heel and Morrison won the US title. And throughout 2009 and 2010, 2010 was when they debuted the I Came to Play theme as well. And that was to really establish him as like moving up the card, becoming a proper main event star of sorts. And the cash-in match is actually really well done. The only thing that sucks about this is the title reign was so terrible, and it led to one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. So yeah, that's the only real downer for me, is everything that happens after the cash-in is really, really bad, because he gets into a feud with Jerry Lawler. And then the Cena match at WrestleMania 27 is just, it's diabolical. And then he loses a month later at Extreme Rules. Yeah. So it's, yeah, I think I give this a bit more praise because I was really excited by it at the time, and his run before the cash-in was actually really well done. It's just the run after the cash-in wasn't. I think people look on it less fondly at now because The Miz is The Miz. But I think if you were watching this not knowing the future, the context of the time, this guy was a rising star. And in 2010, he was at his highest point he'd ever been. So there was potential. But of course, So yeah, that's why it's my number 13. What's your number 12?
My number 12 is the one and only CM Punk on Raw 2008.
Okay.
Mr. CM Punk. Yeah, so this cash-in, I think, it's cool. I think Punk's great. I think him winning the world title is great. Yeah. The only downside, this probably would be high on the list if his reign was good. His reign was pretty shoddy. and had to vacate it after getting punted by Orton, which kind of fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, but him cashing on Edge, I think it's quite fun. You know, fits quite well.
His character was also watered down. It wasn't as good as his Ring of Honor days.
Yeah, it was. This isn't Punk. This isn't. We're like a year off Punk. This version of Punk getting a lot of steam.
Like even when he was on,
Punk was just over because Punk was cool and people liked him.
I mean, even when he was on the really silly ECW brand, like he did the whole straight edge thing, which was something. By 2008 on Raw, he was he wasn't bland, because CM Punk can't be bland because he's too charismatic, but his booking didn't reflect a main event here.
No, yeah. A lot of reasons, yeah.
And his feud
So
after winning...
that and many other reasons why this was just a bit lower than I would like.
His feud after winning the belt was with JBL.
Yeah, not fun.
Yeah, oh well. Anyway.
Yeah, there's not much else to say about it. It's a cool cash in. Against Edge, makes sense. You know, it's quite cool. And Punk win the belt is always cool, you know, around this time. But unfortunately, the reign sucks.
I'll get onto that one later. My number 12 is Kane from 2010. So this wouldn't be as high as it was if it wasn't so absolutely unbelievably groundbreaking when it aired. Because he not only was he cashed in an hour after he won that briefcase, and everyone was like, "Holy shit!" Like it served so many purposes, because it not only established something insane. You win a match for the number one contendership, and then you win the belt an hour after that. It also turned Kane heel, and the reign. Whilst some of the matches with The Undertaker were not very good, the reign was long, it was dominant, and it was actually... It was worthwhile for his career, because he had the WWF championship for one day in 1998, and that was kind of dumb, because he beat Steve Austin, and then he lost it the next night.
It was.
This is the reign that Kane can hang his hat on, as the Devil's Favorite Demon in 2010. Because as much as the Undertaker matches weren't very good, his actual character as a heel that year, he took himself very seriously, and this is when they brought back Paul Bearer into the WWE after he got buried in cement, which was fucking weird in 2004. But yeah, they had the whole thing with him cashing on Rey Mysterio, and then the Undertaker feud, and then of course he didn't lose the belt until the end of the year when Edge came to SmackDown and got the belt back. So they gave Kane a big heel run with the belt, but the main reason it's this high is it's the first cash in that happened on the day, and at the time in 2010 that was just like I imagine people may have thought, what if that happened? But actually seeing it happen is a whole different thing. And this kind of revitalized Kane because he'd been stale for a while. He hadn't really done that much of substance since I think it would have been probably like the May 19th thing in like 2006. Something like that. I don't know. He had been stale for a while. This kind of revitalized Kane with a heel run with the big gold belt, and he hit a massive tombstone on Rey. Anyway, that's my number 12. What's your number 11?
My number 11 is Bailey from Money in the Bank 2019.
Snap.
Yeah. I think this cash-in is pretty fun. I think. This is when both Charlotte and Lacey Evans are beating up Becky. Bailey had won early in the night. She comes up, fights them off like the babyface she is. And then after completely wiping out Charlotte, it has this whole, should I not? And the crowd is edging her on because everyone really likes Bailey at the time. And then she does, and she goes and cash in, and it's a great moment. It's Bailey wins. Bailey's won the belt. How fun! And I believe this reign leads into her heel run with Sasha.
It does,
which is great.
Yeah,
which was the only good things on the pandemic era of WWE. Really, it was one of those few shining lights at the time.
Firefly Funhouse is the best thing.
It's this. Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely.
Firefly Funhouse.
But yeah, this is
and some of the stuff they did in NXT.
Yeah. But yeah, this is cash in again. Cashing in against Charlotte. It's great. I think this is a good cash in.
And I'll add on to that because obviously at WrestleMania 35 they did the whole Becky 2 belts thing where she won both the SmackDown and the Raw Women's Championships, and at some point they had to fix that because there's a brand split, and using the Money in the Bank briefcase to do that was really, really smart. It re-split the belts, and she could have cashed in on either, and she chose the SmackDown one from Charlotte. So yeah, that was really well done. And it's just a really, it's a real feel-good moment because I believe this is Bayley's first main roster women's championship, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, her best reign is the NXT Women's Championship one she had. That's her magnum opus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a real good. It's a feel-good cash-in.
Yeah, definitely.
The only real criticism I would have is it came 1 year after Alexa Bliss also did a night one cash-in.
Yeah, exactly. It was another cash-in from a woman 2 years in a row.
Yeah, if we.
But this one I think was a lot better.
Yeah, if we're gonna do if we look at the ones where the women cashed in either that night or the night after, this is the one they should have kept. This is the one where they should have kept it on the same night, and the other ones can all be later.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
Right, now we get to my top 10. So these are the real. I really like all of these ones, and I also have good memories of them too. My number 10 is Dean Ambrose from 2016.
Ooh.
So the significance of this one, from a storytelling point of view, you had all three members of the Shield as WWE champion in the same night. So you had Reigns going into the pay-per-view with a lot of heat because he failed a drug test. And this was when they took the belt
none of us
off.
knew at the time.
Yeah. So they had Seth Rollins beat Roman Reigns clean. And you should have seen the fucking smile on my face after that. Because I, at the time, hated Roman Reigns and I loved Seth Rollins. It's interesting because now it's funny though, because now I actually prefer Roman Reigns in 2023. But
I mean, yeah, because the character's way better and Seth's is kind of bland.
Seth's gotten worse. Roman's got way better.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Reigns lost clean to Rollins, and then they did like the 2-year Money in the Bank story, because in 2014 Ambrose and Rollins were feuding in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Ambrose got screwed by Kane and Rollins won the briefcase, and Rollins cashed in the next year. 2015 Ambrose challenges in a ladder match for the title, almost wins and loses. And then 2016 Ambrose gets his revenge, cashes in on Rollins and wins.
Yeah. It's a quite nice trilogy with Dean in that sense.
They told a really good story. There's only one thing that's really bad about this one, and that's Dean Ambrose's title reign sucked.
Yeah, it really did.
They did the Shield triple threat match.
Weird feud. Yeah, a weird feud with Ziggler, which could have been good, but they booked it really strange as him as the heel.
The Ziggler match was crap. They did the Shield. They did the Shield triple threat match at Battleground. Why? Why didn't you do that at SummerSlam?
That would have been cool.
No, because they shouldn't have done it at Battleground. They should have done it at WrestleMania.
I mean, yeah, they never did it at WrestleMania, which sucks.
No.
The match is really good. Like, it's a really good triple threat match. I love the match.
Yeah,
But it should have been at SummerSlam.
And because Roman Reigns was on the hit list, he got pinned by Dean Ambrose.
Well, yeah, because both Roman and Seth were going to Raw, and they were going to have the championship on SmackDown. So Dean won, which is a great moment.
Yeah, but yeah, so Ambrose had that really disappointing thing with Ziggler, and then he lost to AJ Styles, who was actually worthy of being the champ at that point. And
yeah, well, he was on the rise, and it was the right choice, really. And then they had a triple threat match at No Mercy, which was good, if I remember.
Also,
yeah,
it wasn't as bad as some of the other times in his career, but I really didn't like Wacky Dean Ambrose in WWE. His character just pissed me off.
I didn't know.
Didn't like his promos, and especially around this time, I wasn't that keen on his matches either.
He didn't have great matches. They didn't really book him in matches very well.
Also, this is coming off his WrestleMania match with Brock, which sucked.
And his 2 matches with Jericho.
Yeah, and also he came off like being the background for Roman Reigns Triple H feud, which was unnecessary. Yeah.
But I will say, I'll get into later when I get to Dean. I think that just that month he had the belt to build up to Battleground was probably the highlight of his run in WWE, other than the Shield.
Yes.
Really. Because he had a couple really good promos with Seth. You know, because obviously Roman wasn't there.
That is true.
But his promos with Seth and the match they had on Raw, I think, was pretty good. You know, that sort of couple weeks with him with the belt is honestly, other than the Shield, the highlight of his WWE run.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
However, it ain't got a patch on John Moxley in AEW.
No.
Because Mox in AEW is absolutely fantastic.
Great. John Moxley is great.
From day one at Double or Nothing, he was a superstar. AEW has booked him like a Stone Cold Steve Austin level superstar. So yeah, I could have ranked this higher. There's good reason to, but I think the reason why I haven't is there's things I like about the cash-ins above it that I have fonder memories of. I remember at the time this happened, I actually didn't like it because I didn't like Dean Ambrose in 2016. I think in hindsight, the story was really well told. It's just all the stuff up to that point, like all the booking with Ambrose from the last couple of years really pissed me off in the way his character was positioned. But I think for like that one night, having the Shield guys as champs was a great idea. I also was so happy that Rollins won the belt back, and then I was kind of angry that he immediately lost it. So, you know, that also is going against it as well. But yeah, it is a great cash in. And we hadn't seen a one-day cash in since Kane 6 years before. So yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense with Dean's character. It made sense that he would do that instantly as soon as Seth won.
Oh yeah, because he wanted revenge. And he wanted the belt as well.
Oh yeah.
But if this was John Moxley cashing in, we'd be talking all time. Like if yeah. If this was like John Moxley cashing in on the Tribal Chief, I'd be fucking like, this is top 3 kind of stuff, you know? Anyway. Your number 10.
My number 10 is Carmella from SmackDown 2018. Mainly because this cash-in is very fucking funny, looking back on it. It's fucking stupid, and it's really funny. The ref just like, you wanna cash this in? You wanna cash this in? Wait, you really wanna cash this in? And he goes to the ropes, and then goes back to like, no wait, you really wanna cash this in? It's so fucking stupid, but it's in hindsight, it's really funny. It's really fucking funny. For no reason, they just did that. I don't know why, but I find it funny. It's literally only on number 10 because it's funny to me. And I don't hate Carmella. I think, yeah.
It's because Vince McMahon is sexist. That's why.
Yeah, it's like, I don't. I don't think her reign. I agree, her reign was not good. The match she had with Asuka, where she was better than her for some reason, was really stupid.
Yeah, you had.
But in terms of just the cash in, it fit with her character. It was, yeah, it's funny.
Well, because her whole character is that her whole character is that she's a diva, right? She's supposed to be a diva in a women's evolution, and Asuka is the definition of a professional wrestler. So, it's really weird to see Carmella be a better wrestler than Asuka. Why?
Yeah, I just think this is a quite funny cash in, like, and that's the only reason why it's 10, really.
All right, fair enough. All right, my number 9 is CM Punk in 2008. So I think he lost the ECW championship a month before he won the because I remember Chavo beat him, and then Chavo lost to Kane in like 7 seconds or something. But CM Punk being booked as the winner of the Money in the Bank ladder match in 2008 was a really, really big moment, because it was kind of a shift in the tides. It's like, you wouldn't think Vince McMahon would get behind this guy, but he did. He brought him to Raw. He gave him the briefcase, and he had that awesome like Chicago flag briefcase with like the 4 stars on it. And here's my favorite thing about this cash-in, because who was the iconic Mr. Money in the Bank before that point? It was Edge, and they did.
Yeah,
this is like the opposite of the Ambrose, because the Ambrose one with the draft fucked up his reign. This is actually the draft doing something really interesting. This is one of my favorite things they ever did with a draft, is they drafted Triple H to SmackDown, and Edge cut a promo on Raw saying, "You are screwed because the WWE champion and the World Heavyweight champion are now both on SmackDown, and so the ratings are going to plummet, and SmackDown is going to be the A show, because it's Triple H and Edge, both world champs on SmackDown." Edge, who was known as Mr. Money in the Bank, right? This is his thing. And fucking karma bites him in the ass, because CM Punk cashes his Money in the Bank on Edge after Batista beats the shit out of him.
Yeah, after Batista beats him to hell.
And having Edge cashed in on and losing the belt to CM Punk, and having all of his words from his promo completely squashed, because now the world champion is actually on Raw, and now Edge has to start from scratch and try and become the WWE champion off Triple H. Good luck with that. He eventually did at Survivor Series with the help of bloody Vladimir Kozlov. Ugh. But I just think the whole thing of the draft separating them, and then Edge cutting that conniving heel promo, and then having all of his words eaten right in front of him as CM Punk beats him for the belt, is so funny. As like a heel getting their karma. And then also the fact that it is CM Punk. He's this guy who is a fan favorite because of his work in Ring of Honor, and everyone wanted to see him as a world champ. It's a shame that the reign sucked because of the JBL feud, and then being punted by Randy Orton was dumb. And that's the only downside, really, is the reign sucked. But the cash-in is great. The cash-in was so... And they took their time with the pacing as well, the way Batista's walking up the ramp, and then this Fire Burns hits, and the ref and CM Punk are running down. Batista's turning around like, hold on a second. What's going on here? So yeah. That's why CM Punk 08's my number 9. I really, really like it as a cash-in. And it would probably be higher if his title reign was actually booked like a world title reign and not like a mid-card belt. And the rest of the year was so weird, because they punted him, and then Jericho joined the championship scramble and won the belt, and then Batista won it off him, and then Jericho won it back. It was weird. It was... Vince McMahon, what are you doing? The PG era had a lot of like really lot of title changes from like mid 2008 up till probably like up until CM Punk won it at Survivor Series and had his big long reign. Like those 3 years is just, it was like there's like fucking so many champions. Anyway, What's your number 9?
My number 9 is also CM Punk, but from Extreme Rules 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this cash-in is really, really, really good. Because what I liked about it watching it back is there's a really good story being told within the match after Jeff Hardy's just gone through an absolute war of a match. He's like trying to get up but keeps falling down. And yeah, it's just he's really good selling from Jeff. And then the match, he hits him with a go to sleep and he kicks out, which is a great moment. Really, really, really cool. He then rolls up Punk for a close 3, and then Punk hits him with one more GTS. Great sell by Jeff Hardy. I absolutely love the sell he does for the GTS.
It's one of my favorite CM Punk GTSs of all time. Obviously, it doesn't. Obviously, the Kenta ones in Japan are the best, but those are because he literally knees them actually in the face.
Yeah, this sell from Jeff is just like the way he falls is so good.
It's like a ragdoll.
And then he pins him, and then he wins. Yeah, it's a really good cash in. It's a really, really good, and it leads to a really good, program with Jeff. You know, good match at SummerSlam. Ends with, Undertaker just squashing him a month later, unfortunately.
2 months later.
But this cash in, 2 months later, sorry. But this cash in's great. I really like this one. It's really fun. Really nice little story that's told. Yeah, I love it. I think it's a really good cash in from Punk.
All right. My number 8. Oh, this one was so fun. I remember when this aired, and I loved this. It's Daniel Bryan from 2011. Oh, so having him this moment, because obviously they did a lot of setup. They had the whole feud with the Miz and NXT, and then on the game show NXT, and then his whole thing with the Nexus and winning the US title on Raw and everything. But this made Daniel Bryan in WWE. Because obviously all the Ring of Honor fans love Daniel Bryan anyway, from his work there. But in terms of like the WWE audience getting him over, this was it. So he won. I love the way he won the ladder match with like a submission on top of the ladder, and then just unhooked it with one arm. Fucking brilliant. And so
after knocking off Wade Barrett, which was really cool.
Yeah. And then he turns heel, and Mark Henry beats the shit out of the Big Show after he loses his Hall of Pain reign. And Daniel Bryan
which is a great reign.
Yeah, it's a great reign. Peak of Mark Henry's career outside of the salmon jacket fake retirement.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Bryan, this sniveling little shit, runs into the ring and immediately pins the Big Show, and the Big Show goes and like pushes him off.
Doesn't even hit a move. Just pins him, and Big Show kicks out after 3.
And this was the night that the yes chant started. This was it. He held the World Heavyweight Championship and said yes, and he stood on the commentary table to the absolute disgust of heel Michael Cole, who always hated Daniel Bryan, because in NXT Daniel Bryan said, "You are just a lame replacement for Jim Ross. You don't deserve to be here." They had like a whole feud with him and the Miz and everything. So Daniel Bryan turns heel and starts the yes chant, and obviously the 18-second loss to Sheamus it's infamous, but the Daniel Bryan heel run on SmackDown with this belt was so fun. And it was like it was the first time that they really did good character work with him on the main roster, because he was always a great wrestler, but he had that weird phase where like the Bellas were like kissing him and all that, and he was like the unlikely ladies man. That's actually how he met Brie anyway. And
I imagine it would be,
apparently one of the first times him and there was a time like when him and Brie were getting physical somewhere in an arena, like in private, and Sheamus walked in on them.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
It's like, oh sorry fella. Anyway, but I love this cash in. It's so much fun. It's the start of the yes movement, because this was his heel run, and then he turned babyface like a year later, and that's when you get like the peak Daniel Bryan WWE run. But this was so much fun, and I'm so happy that Vince McMahon like didn't see this guy as some generic wrestler. Like he actually saw the personality that he had and he put the belt on him. So yeah.
He was clearly well liked backstage.
Yeah.
It's just not enough to push him as a main guy until he was forced to by the crowd.
Like, it's weird because it's kind of a comedic cash-in, but I still take it seriously anyway. Because it's just so well booked. The whole thing is so... And also, I remember Daniel Bryan had a fake cash-in on Mark Henry like a month or two earlier, where he actually won a match, but then it was reversed and he got the briefcase back. So they teased it as well. It's like it's weird because on Raw you had Del Rio, and him cashing in was just like such a damp squib wet fart. I was like, this is so unnecessary. The polar opposite with Daniel Bryan, because him cashing in on SmackDown was just, it actually like it was unexpected, and it was such a lovely surprise to see a heel Daniel Bryan. And I was like, I didn't realize how good this guy could be as a heel. He really proved it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my number 8. What's your number 8?
My number 8 is Big E from Raw 2021. Mainly because it's just a really nice moment. Coming from out of the pandemic, him winning the ladder match. He's always been a guy who's been like wanting... Like, the crowd and, like, fans really want him to be pushed because he's really good. And after everybody came back for the first time at Money in the Bank, after the Thunderdome era, him winning was a great moment. A nice, like, welcome back. He deserves it. He should be pushed. And he was. And the cash-in is, you know, really great moment. I definitely agree that him announce he's going to cash in is kind of dumb. But the moment is still really great. He had a really good match with Drew as well. Crown Jewel. That match was really good. But yeah, after that, the reign just didn't live up to what it probably could have been. And they lost it to Brock, which he wasn't going to probably originally, I imagine. Roman getting COVID really fucking... That moment has changed like history for the last 2 years. You know, because they wouldn't have given the belt to Brock probably. They wouldn't have done the double title thing. Maybe they would have. I don't know, but I doubt they would have if they didn't do what they did. It just kind of sucks. And then obviously he got injured. Like not like after that, it was just kind of really bad couple of weeks for Big E. But I really like this moment because it's for a wrestler that has always been touted for that main event push, and he got it. You know, he won the title. He won the WWE Championship, which was such a great moment. Because Big E's great.
I remember, CM Punk gave Big E a match on TV at one point. This was when Big E was like brand new, like 2013, and 2013. And like it really helped establish Big E on the roster. Obviously, he wasn't at the New Day by that point, but it gave him, because CM Punk could see the potential, and it was a really, really good match. So I bet Punk's very happy that Big E won the belt.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. My number 7 is Edge from 2007. Oh boy, so this is quite a story. So, WrestleMania 23, Mr. Kennedy won the match. Funnily enough, Edge was actually in the match, but this was the match where Edge was on the ladder and Jeff Hardy jumped onto him and they both got stretched out. So Mr. Kennedy wins the briefcase. And at the time he was you know, red hot, great promos. He was kind of like, he kind of had like the annoying Miz thing, but he was a bit more, he wasn't as kind of, the thing is, the Miz is like a coward, whereas Mr. Kennedy is just arrogant. And I love Mr. Kennedy's promo after he wins the match. He goes backstage and he does like a Ric Flair post-match kind of promo. He even, in the very brief time that he had the briefcase, he actually had his own custom design on it. But then he got a misdiagnosed tricep injury, and they thought he was going to be out for like 6 months or something. But it actually turned out it wasn't as bad as they thought, and it was only going to be like 6 weeks. So they shot an angle on Raw where Edge tricked. It was kind of like what they did with The Miz and Otis, but better. Where Edge used his ultimate opportunist character to trick Kennedy into putting the briefcase on the line. And Edge basically blindsides him on the way to the ring and beats him for the briefcase. And it's like, okay, they had to get it off Kennedy, I guess. But they put it onto Edge, who has been Money in the Bank 2 years prior. And it's in character for the ultimate opportunist. But here's why this cash-in is so monumentally insane, at the time at least. Because Edge was a Raw guy and he had done the Rated RKO run, and that had just wrapped up. And I believe it was Backlash. It was Cena, Shawn Michaels, Edge, and Randy Orton. Fatal 4-way, and Cena retained. So he had done all of that, and he lost his chance to Cena in the Fatal 4-way, and RKO had split up. Rated RKO, I should say, had split up. So Randy Orton was now singles. Edge beat Kennedy for the briefcase, and then 1 day later, he turns up on SmackDown out of nowhere and cashes in on The Undertaker. That's the thing about it that's so insane, is that everyone was just like, oh, is Edge going to cash in on John Cena again? But he just goes to SmackDown and turns up after Mark Henry decimates a bleeding Undertaker and becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. And this is just one of those moments, again, it's like the Elimination Chamber swapping thing, where this is ultimate opportunist Edge at his best. And this led to Edge's SmackDown run in 2007, which is when you got the whole angle with the La Familia with Vicky and Chavo, and you had, this was when they introduced Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins as the Edgeheads, which led to that amazing match with The Undertaker, which kind of tied it full circle because Edge cashed in on The Undertaker in 2007. Because it was interesting, because Kennedy got injured, so Edge had the briefcase, but The Undertaker also got injured, so he had to lose the belt. And so by doing the cash-in, it then leads to WrestleMania the next year, where they have Edge versus Undertaker in the main event, and that match is incredible. There was a bit of an interruption, because Batista had a reign at some point in there. But then Edge got it back. But yes, the cash-in itself, it was the whole thing of this is why the one briefcase during the brand split is such a great way to do it, because you can have the person change brands, except this time it's not Jack Swagger, so it's actually Edge, and Edge is great, so it actually works with this one. But yeah, the unique thing of Kennedy wins the ladder match, loses the briefcase to Edge, and then the very next day Edge cashes in on The Undertaker, switches brands, and becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. It's a very unique cash-in. And I really like the precedent it really sets for the briefcase. It makes it kind of expands your imagination as to what you can do with this briefcase. But unlike the Austin Theory cash-in, it actually does it right. Yep. But yeah, I know that at the time people were absolutely like, holy fuck, it's Edge on SmackDown. They were like, they did not see that coming. And then immediately after that, SmackDown became like the Edge show until he retired in 2011. I mean, technically he was on Raw for a bit in 2010, but that run wasn't the best. That was during the whole Nexus angle, where he turned heel briefly. And then he threw the anonymous GM computer down and went to SmackDown. So yeah. That's my number 7. What's yours?
My number 7 is Randy Orton at SummerSlam 2013. Yeah, this is a really good cash-in. mainly just for the entirety of Triple H turning heel on Daniel Bryan after he just beat John Cena for the WWE Championship and instantly loses it to Randy Orton and Triple H, creating the Authority. As a moment, it's really, really good because it's the start of what was the build up to eventually Bryan winning at Mania, even though that wasn't the plan, which is quite funny. Really stupid that wasn't the plan in the first place because that's such a good story. Unfortunately, after this moment, you get a really weird feud where Bryan wins the belt back, then loses it the next night. They have a match. Shawn Michaels turns heel on Daniel Bryan, and then Randy goes to have a match with Cena to unify the belts. Really strange. Really strange. But this moment itself was great. The shot of after Bryan wins, you get a shot of the whole arena towards the to the stage, and then Randy's music plays, and it's such a great shot for when he comes out just before then. Yeah, I really like this cash-in a lot. It's a really good moment, especially like you mentioned earlier with all the confetti with Sheamus winning. They did the same thing here, and it was a really cool moment, cool visuals and all that. Yeah, I really like this cash-in a lot.
Right, yeah. My number 6 is also Randy Orton, for basically the same reasons. Start of the Authority.
Ooh.
One of the things that I love is the camera work that they do, because
yeah,
you have the Bryan victory with the confetti, and then it cuts to this like super wide shot for a while, and it lingers on it, and you're like, why are we looking at this? And then the "I hear voices in my head" hits.
Yeah.
And I love the whole thing of he goes down, he stops, he holds up the briefcase, then he walks away, and then Triple H turns heel, hits the pedigree, and then Randy Orton cashes in and wins. It's super simple, but it's so brilliant. It poops on the party in the best way.
Really good stuff.
It's a great cash-in. Like you said, the aftermath, Bryan wins the belt immediately, and then there's the Hell in a Cell match where Michaels turns heel. Oh, and the fucking Battleground match where the Big Show comes in and ruins it. It's always the Big Show. Why is it always the Big Show?
Yeah.
Man, that Big Show Battleground ending is one of the worst in pay-per-view history. This was back before the network as well, when the Americans were paying like $50 for a pay-per-view. It's okay though, that show had the Rhodes Brothers versus the Shield, and that was a great match. But yes, the Randy Orton cash-in is great, and I watched that live. I watched that SummerSlam live, and I was like, yes, this is a great moment. And it's the start of the Authority angle, when it was actually brand new and like fresh, and it wasn't stale yet like it ended up being eventually. With fucking Triple H and Stephanie coming out to open every single Raw. This was also a Randy Orton heel turn as well, because he'd been babyface for like 3.5 years after he left Legacy. So yeah, so Randy Orton and Triple H heel turn on Daniel Bryan. Yeah, it's just a brilliantly done cash-in. It's like all I can say about it, really. It's just brilliantly. It's probably one of the best in terms of cinematography, I'd say. The camera work is excellent for this cash-in. And it started a hot feud, and
yeah,
the pay-per-view matches are what they are, but the match that Daniel Bryan had with Randy Orton on Raw was amazing. That's one of my favorite Randy Orton matches ever. Unfortunately, I believe that is the match where Bryan injured his neck on the suicide dive, though, and he started to have like the seizures. That's the match where he wins. He does the lapel lock, but he has a kendo stick in his hand. He wrenches Randy Orton's face with the kendo stick. It's a great match. But yeah, number 6 is Randy Orton. Absolutely iconic, brilliant cash-in. Like, Randy Orton's not the kind of guy that I imagine as a Mr. Money in the Bank by 2013, because he's already established, but he is a Predator character, and him turning heel works. If he'd stayed babyface, I don't think it would have worked as well, but because he turned heel in the process of it, it worked really well. And he also won a stacked Money in the Bank ladder match as well. It was like the all baby, because the SmackDown one was the all heel one until Cody turned babyface. But the SmackDown one was the all babyface one, because it was Randy Orton, Christian, John Cena, Rob Van Dam. I can't remember the others. It was a stacked match. I remember that. I think they were like all former world champions or something.
My number 6 is Daniel Bryan at TLC 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I think this cash-in is fucking great.
Mm.
This is probably one of the in terms of like iconic cash-ins, I think, because I always remember that shot of him like lifting the title with absolute glee on his face after just pinning Big Show, after not even hitting a single move on him.
I also just love it.
This was great.
I love it because he's a small guy and he's holding an absolutely massive belt.
Yeah. Against a guy who's massive. After two guys who are absolutely massive just had a match with Big Show winning, and Mark Henry, after coming off the Hall of Pain reign, just absolutely destroys him because that's the character he is. And Bryan just coming down with a ref, holding a ref by its collar, and just winning the belt. Yeah, it's a great cash in. It's great. It's really cool. It's really fun. And yeah, I think all round this is like a really, really good cash in. Yeah, and like you said, it begins the Yes movement, which leads into him losing at Mania, which then leads into him being over as a wrestler because people were annoyed at that, which then leads to him winning the title at Mania 30.
Yep, it led to them chanting Daniel Bryan during the biggest, highest drawing pro wrestling match on pay-per-view of all time. Cena versus Rock got them 1 million pay-per-view buys. That's insane. And they were chanting Daniel Bryan's name. And they chant that name the next night on Raw as well. Holy shit.
Yeah, really great cash-in. Because Daniel Bryan is great. Really good stuff. Love this cash-in. One of my favorites.
Speaking of one of my favorites, number 5, CM Punk from 2009. So they actually did it right this time. This was not only a cash-in, but it was a heel turn. Because CM Punk had been a babyface up to that point in WWE. He hadn't been heel since Ring of Honor, since he signed the WWE contract. But CM Punk ruined Jeff Hardy's epic win over Edge in that, in the ladder match, which is a great ladder match. I love this cash-in for the facial expressions that both men give. Like, so when Jeff is in the corner and he sees Punk running down, and just the look on his face, and then the look on his face when Jeff kicks out of the GTS and Punk is just like, fuck. But yeah, this is a great... I believe this is also a brand change. I can't remember if he gets drafted to SmackDown before the cash-in or not. But he was definitely on Raw when he won the briefcase at WrestleMania. And I love the whole thing of like, he's the 2-time Mr. Money in the Bank 2 years in a row. And like you said, this leads to arguably the best feud of 2009, which was CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy. Straight Edge versus the reverse of Straight Edge. With so many great promos. I love the one after Jeff left the company where CM Punk comes out in Jeff Hardy's face paint with his music. That was fucking brilliant. And yeah, he gets squashed, but he has the breaking point Montreal Screwjob bullshit with The Undertaker, where they say The Undertaker tapped, but he didn't, and then he gets beaten convincingly at Hell in a Cell. And then immediately after that leads into the Straight Edge Society storyline, which he wrote himself, which is really impressive. Which has given both Luke Gallows and Serena Deeb a lot of longevity. And it gave Joey Mercury something to do as well. That awesome Royal Rumble where CM Punk cuts promos in the middle of the match, trying to get people to join the Straight Edge Society. That was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the start of heel CM Punk, and he stays heel until the pipe bomb. This is like the build up to his... We finally figured it out. Like, they didn't get it right in 08, really. Like, they got the cash-in right, but not the reign. But this time, This time they turned him heel, and they gave him an actual feud. And unlike the JBL thing in 2008, which was really mediocre, the CM Punk Jeff Hardy feud is legendary, and the TLC match at SummerSlam is amazing.
Yeah, great shit.
Great shit. Yeah, this is. I think this is CM Punk's first truly like amazing moment in WWE for me. Is this cash-in? Because the cash-in at 08 is really cool, but the 09 cash-in made him like an actual main event world champion. And him and Jeff are just such great opponents as well, because they're so polar opposite. Anyway, that's my number 5. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is Rob Van Dam, One Night Stand 2006. Yeah, this match is great. It's a famous, obviously, very, very famous match. Crowd is absolutely fucking insane in their hatred of John Cena.
It's my favorite
minefield.
It is my favorite John Cena entrance ever. I love his entrance at this show. When he just head down, hold the belt up. He does it at Money in the Bank as well, but the Hammerstein ballroom atmosphere is so intimate, and the way he throws his shirt in the crowd and they throw the shirt back.
Yep. Yeah. This match is great. Great stuff with Edge spearing Cena through the table. And then you got Paul Heyman coming down with the count, with Rob Van Dam winning the belt. Just an all-round great night, really. It's a shame what happened next, but in terms of just this moment, it's so good. It's an iconic moment in pro wrestling history, really.
Oh yeah, and that's why my number 4 is Rob Van Dam.
Mm-hmm.
He was the right guy to win the ladder match at WrestleMania 22. That's the match where fucking Ric Flair was in it, and he got superplexed off a ladder. That was unbelievable. It was like fucking in his late 50s by that point. Anyway, RVD wins the briefcase. He does the tie-dye yin-yang spray paint briefcase as well. And just on the relaunch of ECW, he does the thing that Cena does with Punk for Raw 1000, except this one's actually good, because he wins the match. But, yes, RVD challenges Cena up front. So this is the second cash-in, so we've seen the surprise cash-in from Edge, the Ultimate Opportunist, with a heel, and now they say, well, what do we do with a babyface Money in the Bank? He offers up a match in advance, but the trick is you're going to do it on my home turf of ECW One Night Stand. So he may be warning Cena before the match happens, but Cena's going to be going into a crowd that's absolutely against him, because Cena is Mr. WWE. And yeah, it's just iconic. The entrances alone are so electric. RVD and Cena. The match is great. It's one of my favorite matches of both men's career. The Edge Spear, the Paul Heyman count, RVD being crowned both the WWE and the revived ECW champion. And you get like the whole ECW locker room coming out to celebrate with him. It's if Cena wins we riot, it's like the first one of those. It's just a legendary match, legendary cash-in. The only reason why it's not higher than number 4 is because RVD and Sabu got busted on the road for weed.
Yeah.
And he had to immediately drop both titles. Firstly, he dropped the WWE title to Edge in a triple threat. And then even worse than that, he had to drop the ECW title to the fucking Big Show. Big Show always ruining everything. Big Show, who is like...
he seems to come up a lot during Money in the Bank stuff.
Well, to be fair, the Daniel Bryan Big Show stuff was great, so at least there's that.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's great, really.
But yeah, the RVD cash-in is just legendary. It's so damn good. I'm so happy that Vince put the belt on RVD and put him over John Cena. It was just because Cena Cena, by the time you get to WrestleMania 22 against Triple H, he's getting booed out of the building. So we've reached like the Cena sucks era by 2006, and One Night Stand 2006 is the biggest I hate John Cena crowd of all time. I just the facial expressions that Cena gave, like when the crowd would chant shit at him, just the disdain. It's so interesting because it's like it's heel main event John Cena, but it's only because the crowd absolutely despises him, so he's just giving it all back to them. Yeah. RVD number 4. Great stuff. I think also it would be weird having it like at the top because the surprise cash-ins are always gonna be more sort of what the Money in the Bank's supposed to be. So like this is kind of like the exception, the announced cash-in, but it's by far the best one. Because the Braun Strowman one's shit and the John Cena one's shit. So there you go. I would like to see, oh, and obviously the Damien Sandow one is kind of like half-half. I'd like to see another one like this that's done well, where it's a babyface who announces the match beforehand and wins. I think that could be great. Like, imagine if the Royal Rumble winner chooses one of the champions, and then the Money in the Bank holder chooses the other one, and says, I want to win the title at WrestleMania. You know, something like that. Or it's like the RVD thing with the, we're going to do it in my home turf, for example. Yeah, RVD number 4. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is probably the one I'm most nostalgia. Well, one and another, which we'll get to in a bit. But this one I'm also quite nostalgic for. It's Dean Ambrose at Money in the Bank 2016.
Mm-hmm.
This was when I was really watching wrestling, like properly, like week in, week out, around this time. Because what I obviously started at the end of 2014, all of 2015 I was, you know, watching, but getting into it because I didn't know a lot. 2016 was a really nostalgic year, I say, especially the back end of 2016. It was a really, really good period. Obviously with the brand split and SmackDown Live,
SmackDown especially. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Styles' run as champ was just so good.
Yeah. At this time, exactly. At this time, I was very much into people like Seth, Dean, Styles, Kevin Owens. So I was very much into this pay-per-view, seeing Dean win it, because I very much at the time really wanted Dean to get good spotlight, especially coming off after the Mania stuff, which was really shit. He had the feud with Jericho where he went over, so I was thinking maybe they can put him at a top.
Oh, the Ambrose Asylum match was so bad though.
Yeah.
The redeeming thing though, was the Roadblock match with Triple H was actually really good.
Yeah, really good. That was a really good match.
Way better than the WrestleMania main event.
So to see Dean win the ladder match and then to cash in later was great. But not only that, cashing on Seth Rollins when those two probably had like the first big feud I have ever watched, which was at Hell in a Cell. Seeing this, like their story now, like culminate in this sort of moment, because I think this is sort of the peak of their rivalry as a moment, was great. I absolutely love this moment because in kayfabe, Seth is the one who tore down the Shield. He absolutely just destroyed both Roman and Dean mentally. Dean, throughout 2014, trying to go after Seth. A couple of wacky segments, which weren't that good. But their matches were always great. Their match at Money in the Bank the year before was fantastic. And I think Dean cut a really good promo after the show, which was great. Which then culminated in this moment here, where he cashed in on Seth and won, which was a fantastic moment. It's one of my favourite moments from this era, because I was very much into Dean. as a character and as a wrestler. I really like Dean a lot. To see him beat Seth and to become world champion, I was like, yes, fuck yes, this is great. And it's also just a really great cash in because it's so in character with both of these two. Dean being the one to cash in on Seth, who was the year before was like the iconic cash in with his cash in at WrestleMania. You know, it's quite poetic. And it being Seth, obviously, because of their history together. Dean finally winning against the Authority, really, which this moment really was. Yeah, I think this is great. I think everything about this cash-in I have no issues with. It's literally everything after that they should have just done way better because it wasn't a great reign, unfortunately. This singular moment, on this night, on this moment, this is for me the peak of Dean's run. This was a great moment. I absolutely loved it. Great cash-in.
Right. Now we get to the top three, which I've noticed that we have not said any of these three yet, either of us.
No, we haven't.
But which order? My number 3 is the original Edge 2006.
Snap.
Yeah. I mean, there is not a better character on the roster from that time you could have chosen to be the first ever Mr. Money in the Bank than Edge, the ultimate opportunist, the rated R superstar. This Money in the Bank briefcase is what made him a main event star. Because he was, you know, great tag team wrestler, great mid-carder before this point. But winning Money in the Bank is what made him one of the GOATs. It was winning Money in the Bank, turning heel, stealing Matt Hardy's girlfriend, Lita, that pairing, becoming the rated R superstar, holding that briefcase for like just under a year. And then after John Cena gets beaten the tar out of him in the Elimination Chamber, with like Carlito and Chris Masters, and I believe Shawn Michaels is in that match too. He's bloody, he's downed. Vince McMahon comes out and says Edge is going to cash in his Money in the Bank privilege he earned at WrestleMania. Edge comes down, spear, Cena kicks out, Edge spears him again, wins his first ever WWE title, first ever world title, New Year's Revolution 2006. It's one of, like, it is the perfect kind of, we are establishing what the Money in the Bank is all about, and they did it exactly right. There's only one issue with this, and that's the fact that fucking 4 weeks later at the Royal Rumble, Cena won it back.
Yep.
And everyone booed, and that's why no one likes John Cena from then on, because he beat Edge immediately, and that's why in the main event of WrestleMania they wanted Triple H to win somehow. Triple H, who had been fucking, what's it called, like enemy number 1 or something? Like, yeah. He had been enemy number 1 for all the fans throughout the Reign of Terror, but they were cheering Triple H over John Cena because they hated what John Cena did when he beat Edge at the Royal Rumble. But alas, the cash-in itself made Edge one of the guys, one of the main event guys. Without this cash-in, we don't have this legendary run we have now since his return. We don't have the ultimate opportunist character, and Money in the Bank might not be, you know, a legitimately drawing pay-per-view 18 years later. That is somehow become bigger business than Survivor Series, which started in 1987. This is something that started at WrestleMania in 2005, and Edge pretty much defined it perfectly with the cash-in. It's just perfect. The cash-in is just. I guess maybe if you were to nitpick, I guess if they just had him come out and not had Vince announce it, but I guess because it's the first cash-in, they wanted to kind of explain it, because people might know what it is. Also, his reign as Mr. Money in the Bank was excellent the whole time. especially during the Matt Hardy feud. Like, he put the briefcase on the line and retained it in a ladder match, which set the precedent that you can lose the briefcase in a one-on-one match if it's put on the line like a title. And also, he had the custom rated R superstar.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a great cash-in, great first cash-in, and I agree with the whole Vince stuff. I think that it had to be done. Be like for an iconic moment, you know, such a great way to introduce this whole idea, you know, in how it works. And yeah, it's just a great moment with Edge and his sort of character going forward. You know, I can't criticize it really, and it really great moment. And it really made Edge into who he really was as a character.
I just love that look on his face. He comes through the pyro smoke, and he's got that look on his face like, "Give it to me now! Give it to me now!" Oh yeah, the only other thing is that the referee drops the title when he's trying to give it to him. But yeah, it's just a shame that the reign was only like 4 weeks. Oh, and because of this, we got the live sex celebration.
Jesus Christ.
Oh dear. Anyway, so we snapped, which means your number 2 is...
My number 2 is Dolph Ziggler on Raw 2013.
Snap.
Yep. It's probably the most iconic cash-in, I think, in terms of just the absolute build-up of people wanting Ziggler cash in and it being teased for months and months and months, to then finally cashing in on Del Rio on a hot post-WrestleMania crowd. Probably the most iconic crowd probably out there around the modern era. Like, everyone was fucking so happy you won. The reaction to him winning is insane.
He got a Stone Cold Steve Austin level pop when he won the championship.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
it was very much that. And it's it's iconic. It is. It's an iconic cash-in. It's the iconic cash-in.
Yeah,
this one that's better. But this one's still bloody great.
And that long build-up they did to it as well, from Money in the Bank 2012 all the way after WrestleMania. And he, in that time, accumulated, you know, AJ Lee and Big E into his little circle. And it was so ideal because Del Rio was not working as a babyface champion. And it's unfortunate that he got the concussion injury that cut his reign short. But I will say, the match he loses, the match where he loses the belt to Del Rio at Payback is so damn good. I watched that pay-per-view live, and it's one of those rare matches where they do a double turn, where they, like, the face turns heel and the heel turns face. And it's in my opinion, the best Alberto Del Rio performance in WWE. It's his best match, because he kicked the shit out of Dolph Ziggler. And that made Dolph Ziggler even more popular. Though, unfortunately, his career has never reached that height again.
No, unfortunately.
Outside of maybe the Survivor Series match where Sting debuted. That's probably the closest we got.
Yeah. I do really like the absolute pop he gets when he hits the zigzag. Oh,
yeah.
And the crowd just carrying along with it is so loud. And then you got the call, like, we got ourselves a new world champion, which is pretty... It's actually a good call from JBL.
Yeah, I love the scream he does after he wins the match.
Oh, yeah, because it sounds like his song as well. Yeah, like, because obviously his song's playing at the time. It's really funny.
Yep. It's weird, because this was 10 years ago. And, like, now no one cares about Dolph Ziggler. He's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
But back then, in 2013, he was fucking white hot.
Oh yeah, because of it literally was all due to like him holding the briefcase for so long, teasing many times, and then he finally on a hot crowd as well.
Yeah, that's one of the best crowds I've ever seen, is that 2013 post WrestleMania Raw.
That's what made the post Mania episode of Raw like, what it is. And now it's never really reached that height, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean,
other than the only closest you get are like the next 2 years, and then that's it pretty much.
They had some
2016 to be fair too.
They had some pretty good ones before 2013, but 2013 is the best one.
Mm-hmm.
The 2012 one when Brock returned was very loud. That's one of the best pops I've ever heard, is when Brock came back in 2012. But the difference is that was leaked online and people expected it, whereas the cash-in wasn't. That was a genuine holy shit, we never thought we'd get this, but we're so happy we did moment. That cash-in outside of CM Punk versus The Undertaker was better than the entire of WrestleMania the previous night. It made up for the lackluster pay-per-view. It's so weird. I remember watching the show, I'm like, why was the Raw after Mania better than Mania itself? It's funny because this year we got the opposite. The Mania after Raw this year was dog shit.
Yeah. Oh, it was awful. It was so fucking terrible.
Yeah. Anyway. Number 1 is the heist of the century. Seth Rollins, WrestleMania 31.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snap.
Yeah. I watched this pay-per-view live when it happened.
So did I.
I remember going into
this was my first ever WrestleMania.
My first WrestleMania was 26.
And not only is this Mania fucking great, not only is this Mania really good, this is like one of the most iconic moments for me. Same with the Dean Ambrose one, but this moment is like was my first like holy shit moments.
Yeah.
And I fucking loved it.
So the reason why this is number 1 is I talked before about the criteria at the very start of the video, nearly 4 hours ago, about all the different things. This ticks every single box. The right guy at the right time. The Money in the Bank ladder match in 2014 was excellent. Seth Rollins is one of the best guys to hold the briefcase coming off the Shield split and the feud with Dean Ambrose. And he had that triple threat match with Brock and Cena at the Rumble. That was incredible. He had the whole thing with J&J Security and the Authority. He's been positioned as the top heel after the Shield split. And he was going on a tear, having great matches. And then he cashes in Money in the Bank in the main event of WrestleMania. And in terms of the context, going into this show, the hype for this main event was piss poor. Roman Reigns won the worst Royal Rumble match of all time to thunderous boos. No one wanted it. And the rumors were that Brock was going to quit because his contract was 3 years. And he started growing his facial hair out to add to the kayfabe. The rumor, and Paul Heyman on promos are saying Brock's going to take this belt and go to the UFC. So it's like, well, that means obviously Reigns is going to beat Brock, and not just because of the kayfabe side of it, but because CM Punk on the podcast in 2014 basically exposed the WWE's bias towards Roman Reigns. And JR on his podcast says, I think what the WWE should do is have Reigns win the Rumble and beat Brock to become the next top babyface at Mania. But the problem is, Roman Reigns was in his suffering succotash tater tots phase, and he was dog shit. Now, he did have a really great match with Daniel Bryan at Fastlane, but it wasn't enough to save his character. Nobody wanted Roman Reigns to win the title. And so they had Seth Rollins interfere in the middle of the match, make it a triple threat, and won the championship. And then he goes on an amazing title reign, takes it all the way to SummerSlam and then beats Cena for the US title. Unfortunately, what happened with Sting happened, but that's neither here nor there. And then he has to relinquish it due to injury, but then comes back and immediately wins the belt back at Money in the Bank, and then the Dean cash-in happens. It's perfect. It's a great Money in the Bank ladder match. It's a great person at the right time in his career to hold it. They made a new main event star out of him. They had a great angle going into it. They somehow had him have the briefcase for all this time, and yet we still didn't expect that he would cash in, because we couldn't anticipate the idea of a person cashing in the middle of a match, not after.
Main event of WrestleMania, though.
In the main event of WrestleMania. Yeah, and also the Reigns Brock match was actually great before that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, despite it having the worst build up, the match was pretty great.
So
Really
not only do I have no complaints, I honestly think they got everything right with this. It is the best
they
Money in the
somehow
Bank
backed
ever.
themselves into a corner and then come out of it booking one of the best moments ever.
One of the best finishes to any WrestleMania ever. It might be the best ending to a WrestleMania in the last 8 years, maybe 10 years.
It's in terms of like endings to a WrestleMania show, it's my favorite that I've watched. I absolutely love this moment. I don't think this is, out of all the manias in the last like 10 years, this is my favorite. And it's like a top mania for me.
I mean, the year
year
before that, we had Daniel Bryan winning the Triple Threat, which is also an amazing ending as well.
Oh yeah.
But apart from, I mean, Shawn Michaels' retirement at 26 was great at the time, but it's been ruined by Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
And then if you're gonna go beyond that, you gotta think of stuff like X7 with Austin's heel turn, and that didn't even last well, because during 2001, it just, you know, it's like there's very, very few WrestleMania main event endings that can match this, and this is a Money in the Bank cash-in. It's just, it's kind of funny because it's like they didn't intend Daniel Bryan to be in the main event of WrestleMania, but they did it, and it was amazing. It's the same thing. The plan was to have Roman Reigns win. He was going to beat Brock Lesnar, and then they realized he was getting booed, and they pulled the trigger on Seth Rollins, and it's created one of the best, most iconic moments. And unlike Ziggler, and unlike Rob Van Dam, and unlike Edge's first reign, Rollins actually had a great title reign. He lasted all the way until, like, November. And then immediately won it back in his first match when he came back. I don't think this is ever going to be topped. I can't see it. I don't think either. I can't see it. This is perfect.
No.
It is the one and only 10 out of 10 Money in the Bank cash-in for me. It's just everything. It's the right guy at the right time, and it's booked brilliantly.
Yep, it's great. It's an amazing cash-in.
Yep. So yeah. So what from
doesn't get much better than this.
From this ranking, what have we learned, or what we should hope for Damian Priest and Io Sky?
Don't involve the Big Show. Actually, like, book it to make sense and have it be unexpected. Literally, but in a moment that actually fits with the character. Because with the Ziggler one, with the Edge one, with the Rollins one, and the Dean one for me, and the Bryan one as well, and Orton, like those ones, like you got the Orton, Bryan, Dean, Edge, Ziggler, Rollins, all those ones all are instilled with the characters at the time. and that's what makes them that edge above it just being a surprise,
and
also being very character driven.
The Money in the Bank briefcase can also be a great catalyst for a heel turn as well, with CM Punk in 2009, with Randy Orton in 2013, with Daniel Bryan in 2011, Kane in 2010. It can make for a great heel turn. And if someone has a time machine, please go back in time and change Vince McMahon's mind and have Damien Sandow beat John Cena. It's crazy. The Seth Rollins cash-in and the Baron Corbin cash-in are 2.5 years apart, and they're booked by the same person.
Yeah.
And neither of them was supposed to happen the way they did initially.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's a
the
shame.
way to make the Priest and Sky's cash-ins as good as like all these ones here is to have Priest probably cash in on Finn and EO involved in some way with Bailey. That's what would put those top of these lists. You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Those are the best cash-ins. The cash-ins that are unexpected and involved with character.
I'm going to give an honorable mention to Hangman Adam Page in AEW, winning the It's like AEW's version of the Money in the Bank match. He returned on Dynamite after being away for his kid, and won that amazing ladder match, and then beat Omega at Full Gear, and like that finished his story, which is something that Cody didn't do at WrestleMania.
No.
But that's if we're talking the AEW cash-ins, that is by far the best one.
Yeah, definitely.
That if that one equivalent, if that one counted, it would be in my like top 10.
Yeah, because it culminated in Page's character at the time, you know, and him winning the championship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think we watched that match together, I remember, at the time, and we were very much happy that Page won.
Oh yeah. It's a shame that in LPW I never got to do Cash in the Vault, because I had good plans for that. Cash in the Vault. I think TNA did a thing where if you were the X Division champion, you could relinquish it and get a world title match.
You could use it to earn yourself a title match, yeah.
I believe...
I think is a cool idea.
I think AJ Styles did that, and he beat Jeff Jarrett for the belt. Yeah,
I do think that is a cool idea. And Lucha Underground had the Gift of the Gods.
Yes, I was going to say that. The Gift of the Gods
worked in the same way.
And I remember now, New Japan has the G1 Climax, and it's kind of, you get like a briefcase, but it's more like the Royal Rumble because it has to be at Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah, Kenny Omega winning the G1 Climax and then challenging Okada was just, that was awesome. What if they do Mr. Kennedy versus Otis to see for like a second chance? It's such a shame because Mr. Kennedy would actually have made a great Mr. Money in the Bank.
Oh yeah,
he's got the character. He said like his idea was he said he was gonna hold it. He was gonna wait and cash in at WrestleMania 24. And
like a full year.
You know how they had the whole thing of, who was Vince's illegitimate son? The whole reason why he's called Mr.
Kennedy, yeah.
The whole reason why he's called Mr. Kennedy is because it's Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah.
But it was Hornswoggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if things had gone to plan, he won the briefcase, then he would have been revealed as Vince's son, and then he was going to cash in on Triple H at WrestleMania 24 and become the champion. But that didn't happen. Mr. Kennedy ended up back in the Money in the Bank match again at the next year, and he didn't win it. It was CM Punk instead. Yep. Oh well, he won the TNA championship as Mr. Anderson. But someone, I think he was in an interview, and someone said, "Did that like make up for it?" He's just like, "No, it's not the same." And then I think someone asked, they asked LA Knight, when you were Eli Drake in TNA, like, what did it mean to win the World Championship? He's just like, it meant nothing because there was like 3 people watching. Anyway, that is our ranking. Very long ranking of all the Money in the Bank cash-ins. If you feel the dare to put 29 in a list in the comments, feel free to. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts?
I guess fuck Big Show for ruining a lot of these.
I'm glad the Big Show never won one of these.
Bloody hell. It's actually crazy how involved he was in like a good amount of these cash-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big Show's gonna win the casino ladder match.
Oh god.
Paul White, I should say. New room, new shoes, new attitude. He's gonna cash in on Shaq. Anyway, we'll see you next time for more GoAWrestling content. Bye bye.